All right, boss.
Yes. Yes, people. Yes. We call this the Battle of the Giants. Yeah? Yes, man. Because we have Dr. Christopher Tufton here tonight. Yeah, and you know, so tonight is town hall. You know, we always have a full house in town hall. And we have a lot of questions for ask. But Dr. Tufton, before we even go into anything, you know, I want to play one video with you as sing because you're Maria artist. Maria soon come on and thing, right? You're Maria artist. So I'm going to start it with you first because she tell me say you are a fear artist. And I see a so I'm going to start it before we go into anything else. Let me see if you remember that video. Watch this.
Hey, baby. Home a little cottage in the hill. Wait up in West End Grill. This man said, turn it on. You hey, baby. Jimmy, I miss you. Oh, my lips wanna eat. All you wanna phone. To my surprise, you're right there. I wrote this line for you, baby. Oh, a little cottage green, hey, baby. I realize I love you still.
No, I have to play this, you know. It's serious, you know, people, but I have to bust that one here first. Because, you know, Maria artist.
I think
Maria
you're trying
artist, you know. But Maria there. Maria not signing there.
I think you're trying to neutralize me, you know. I come here to listen to all the mash up and beat up for you for me.
No, that's how I go on, you know. But listen, you know. Tonight,
every day.
Every day, what I know tonight, we now make you run, you know. You can't run. You're just there. And the crew, can remember I told her this, you know. So the crew over there, and we're going to ask the question and we want some answer. I want thing with you. Let me tell you up front. Let me tell the people them this straight up off of my heart. Christopher Tufton is the man is a PR man, him know for market. So him not tell me lie. He may catch something and him blame something. But him not say like some other people. And me I tell you the truth. You rather not answer me and go on, but me know the thing, so me know if to deal with that. So me, I go deal with your case right now. And I that me there for. So maybe just ask you, let me start with this, the first thing. Right? See a producer come on here. You producer this. See Maria here. Maria, see your artist here. Me have the artist right here, you know, so you know so worries.
Hi, Minister Tufton. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I am very well. You know, you're my artist, right? I'm your manager.
So I'm being told now. Remember me put some of the royalties here, please.
No, I am going to make sure. I'm going to make sure you get the best royalties.
You tell you say him sharp, you know. So I'm hearing him. Me dub this the Battle of the Titans tonight because.
Oh my word.
Well,
at least you know. But you know the truth. At least we know that he's going to speak his mind. He's not going to tell you a lie, so we can count on that. But he's going to speak, which is honorable. It is on. Say what you mean what you say, but don't tell people lies that you can easily prove. You understand what I'm saying? It helps nobody. So it's good and welcome. And thank you for coming on. Really, thank you for coming on and daring to come into this space, you know, because at the end of the day, we're all in this together, you know, we're all in this together and we want the best. And we must agree to disagree, but not be disagreeable.
Well, I tell you, I'm happy to be on. I don't get a chance to do this often. Obviously, I'm immobile right now with a broken leg and a broken wrist, recovering from my accident. And been just kind of in the environment, and I see Mr. Lonesome here hitting me hard. I mean, some of the things over here, him said, boy, I wonder where him get all of that information from.
I mean, I hit your heart right. So you know if you can defend yourself. So that's just me down there. Right?
I'm appearing to hear from you because I want to hear it directly.
So all right, so let me start directly like this. Sure. Hey, some whole crew are running a Earthy. But you disappear and goes from my herb, man.
I'm having problems from Reston with my daughter's computer.
Oh. Anyway, maybe start start out that because me have to move to me have to move to Christopher T right away because right now back of the Titan. This is Man in the Wilderness and Christopher Tufton, Dr. Christopher Tufton. So maybe this is my first thing I want to ask you. I want to hear about this. I want if you watch this, I hear about this. Watch this. Let me ask you.
A sobering video of Gifford Henry drawing his last few breaths on this earth last Thursday. It still haunts his family and friends.
Stressed, tired, disappointed, frustrated. Just a few of the adjectives used to describe the way I'm feeling presently. This and the disturbing news to learn the distress that my father went through at the Lionel Town Hospital. He just went there just to get assistance. I mean, that facility is there to assist you when you need help. You're sick, you go to the hospital for treatment, right? You go to the hospital, you're expected to come out back better than the way you went there.
The dead man's loved ones said the brutal irony is that Mr. Henry, as an active member of the Community Citizens Association, lobbied political representatives to supply nebulizers to public health facilities in Clarendon. But on the night in question, he himself could not get one of those very machines as his asthma condition worsened.
Him and the man who come here and beg your counsel. Say me that like for get even two for the Lionel Town Hospital. And when me hear say I hit him go figure use and like some negligent and him not get through and him die, him not really get the assistance to him forget, me feel cut up about you.
He was a champion for the community, a voice for the community. He was never afraid to stand up and defend what he thought was right for the community.
The leadership of the hospital, when contacted, explained a meeting was planned at which time they would get a brief on the case. The son of the deceased wants the authorities to use the case to again look into the practices at public hospitals.
I'm just using this medium to reach out to the general public, relevant authorities, everyone. Just take a deeper look into this and see how our people, our citizens are being treated at these facilities. I mean, if somebody die on a floor, that is blatant negligence.
But what about the alleged threats coming from some elements of the community since the incident?
I'm sure no one was threatened. None of us threatened anyone. The media keep broadcasting that, saying that the nurses and staffs are afraid to go to work because they are fearful for their life. They have been threatened. I can guarantee you that all of that are just lies. They are just padding the media, feeding stories to the public just to provide and hide behind those stories.
Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
All right, so my first question is Dr. Tufton. You are the health minister, so the buck stop on your watch. And we see this play out all over Jamaica. And it really a touch we heart. We know the diaspora here and our loved ones, because a lot of people, even Maria, as I'm speaking right now, Maria aunt just passed off. When Maria, last month? Last month, right? Stroke, Spanish Town Hospital.
Yes, no, this is June. That was in April.
Right? And Mystic Sensation. His mother-in-law, his wife, mom, get a stroke and up a university hospital, same thing. So these are the things about the way where we want you to adjust for us, because you are the health minister, and we hear the hospital shout all these kind of things, and it really about us. So we need answers for these things.
All right, so let me come in. First of all, I don't have the specific of this case. When did this happen? How dated is this video?
I think last month this. So much of them are happening that we can't keep up.
But be careful though. First of all, it's always sad when a person loses a loved one. So I don't want to, in any way, shape, or form, project any insensitivity to this particular case. Normally, when these cases come up, the first thing you trigger is a grievance procedure where patients or their relatives are grieved. And there is a process that starts with the institution, and it can go as far as the court of law, meaning people can actually take out legal proceedings. And there are many cases of that where the courts would find that either the institution is liable or that the hospital did as best as they could. I don't have the details of this. So apart from sympathizing with the family and the concerns they have, I would need to check on it because it would not be smart to comment. What I will say though, because you have used one incident, despite the tragedy of it, to draw a general conclusion.
No. Hold on first.
Allow me to finish, Mr. Lonesome.
Yes.
Right? Me talk fast. You can't use as bad as it may appear before a report to draw a general conclusion. Let me give you this summary data of public health in Jamaica.
Yes.
On an average year, we see 3 million cases. 1.4 million go to hospital, 1.6 million go to health centers. We have 200,000 Jamaicans who are admitted for 5 days or less in a hospital. Our complaints are less than 1%. Most people go home and are better off than how they came. Now, that doesn't help. That doesn't help this family. That don't help this family or any other family who is affected. But I believe it is an unfortunate generalization because of a particular case, as bad as it may appear, to conclude that the health system is not working for the majority of Jamaicans the majority of time. And that's the point I want to make. And we can get into some of the specifics. Lionel Town Hospital, I know, once had 3 doctors. They now have 16 doctors there at that hospital. They are offering more services, more beds, and therefore, again, I can't comment on this specific case, but what I will tell you is that Lionel Town Hospital is in a better place today than it was 5 years ago. And I can challenge anybody on that. Huh?
But I'm going to show you some of the things with Lionel Town, but I'm going to continue. I'm not playing one video to draw no conclusion. I'm going to play a next one.
You can play as many videos as you want.
Hold on, Dr. Tufton. Let me just play this one. Look at
Tufton, the hospitals in Jamaica short a bed. It's short a bed and people are dying. People are dying even when they can get help. And it is a very sad state for the country to be in. Any country that cannot provide good medical health is going nowhere. It's going nowhere. All right. Result come back by 10:30. We said we need to get her to move now. When I went back to hospital, to farm hospital, we said, all right, how are we going to transport her? Can we get a JDF helicopter? I said, what's the procedure? Ma'am, we are trying to work out her to move, but there is no ambulance again at Falmouth, so we're trying to get an ambulance from Montego Bay. I said, can we pay for private? Dr. S. Dixon, go and tell me, if you even pay for private, no nurse will want to go. I said, but be serious. Before we reach there, sir. You know. Monday night, when we went to look for my mother, remember, so she admit for a Saturday morning. The nurse said, miss, there's only 2 pills left, 2 imodipine left. I said, what do you mean? 2 pills left. We bought a week's supply for $95,000. Miss, there's no pill. I said, what do you mean, say there's no pill? I said, the pill can't last. I said, I want to find the pill. Then last, my mother pill, you know, or to me, then teeth, my mother medication, you know. I said, what do you mean, say the pill last? I said, on the search, I gave the nurse the pill for 1 week supply. Every 4 hours, 60 milligrams. You remember that pill that we paid $95,000 for? Eh? Then say, all right, we're going to search, we're going to investigate who was on duty. We describe the person. Then say, call nurses supervisor officer and report the case that the pill is lost. Or, in this case, stolen or thief. When we call nurses supervisor office at Falmouth Hospital, about 8:30 the night, because after visiting hours, I'm tell me, say she only have 2 pills, and 2 pills is 1 dose because one of the pills is 30 milligrams. So that means, if it's every 4 hours, you know, Jamaica, she would miss at least 3 doses over the course of the night, and they already delay her. You understand me? She would miss 3 doses. Me say, no, this I get from bad to worse. Me say, no. Me say, this too much. This too much for the family now. This too much. Anyhow, because me like follow protocol. Me call nurses' quarters and report the situation. Ma'am, you call at a bad time. I say, excuse me? Excuse me? That about 8:30 to 9. Me say, I'm telling you that the hospital couldn't provide the pill to treat my mother at first. We bought it for $95,000. Give it to the hospital. The hospital lost the pill. And me I report it and you tell me, so me call at a bad time in Jamaica. Well, I heard of the matter. We are investigating it, but there's nothing that we can do at this time. I said, what you mean? I said, tell me. I said, want you tell me, say, you know, go provide the pill. At least get the night supply until it's search and find. You got miss, well, sorry. We can't do nothing about that. You have to come back in the morning. I said, but what is? So, of course, you don't know. I have to go back to hospital Monday night. And I have the video, and I go release the video where me talk to the nurse. You understand me? So, I say, what if you lost my mother pill? Them don't know who put me. I say, don't you have a pill tray to put pill for that people get to treat them family members? Eh? Miss, we don't know. So what go on tonight? We don't know. Then treat people life like garbage at Falmouth Hospital and the whole medical system. You understand me? When she went to Kingston, so we got the ambulance to take her to Kingston. She got to Kingston Wednesday at UWI Hospital. UWI can't believe. They said, when they admit your mother, me say Saturday morning 5:15. UWI cannot understand. The doctors up there, the team, the neurosurgeon team, can't understand how they have her so long and never ship her off. They can't understand. When she reach at home, she too late. My mother lungs start collapse, her heart start collapse. My mother dead. My mother dead. Dead. You understand me? Because of the heap of delay and back and forth. And I want this to blast. I want everybody to learn about this. Me not eat. First you go in the hospital, me can't eat. You understand me? My mother dead. Died Friday after 12. Or if you want to call it Saturday morning. Because when Kingston get her to perform surgery, they couldn't do it. Everything start to fail. And she go in the hospital for Saturday. Tell me now, Jamaica, what kind of health system this in 2024? Eh? This must blast. This must blast because it could be your family member. It could be a long time. Me go hospital and then short a bed and me wallet, but this gone too far. All I keep hearing in my head. My mother they cry and say me head. Take coffee. And that doctor Wilkins at farm would say, Mom, you have to wait. See there? You have to wait. She dead. She dead now. And she could have gotten help, but because of the neglect, no machine at their farm. You hear me? Wanna blast this to me. This medical system kill off my mother. And people need to know. Gloria Smith Paris, I hope you come out of pain now. You suffer at the hand of the medical system. But her pain done now. She dead. Her pain done now.
That me I tell you, I get a lot of them thing here. You know,
Okay.
and as I said before, everything like this depend on you. What something I touch my heart to breathe, you know. No joke,
Right.
no two way about it.
Let me
And
say
it's
that.
not one and two.
All right,
Yeah,
well, let me
the other day, I'm gonna make you speak and it's same way. And you know, I make Camilla and other people follow up. But these things touches my heart. You understand?
No.
Yes.
Let me just say you sense the pain in the lady's in her testimonial, and one has to be very careful that one isn't insensitive to the concerns that she has raised. That case I'm a little bit more familiar with because a report was generated. There's still some further investigation going on, but it was investigated, discussed at the level of cabinet, and without going into details, because as a rule, we don't go into details on patients' records and confidentiality. But the patient was administered some treatment for a very, very serious condition, very, very serious. She did get some tests done. She had to be transported for it to be done. The technical team at Cornwall Regional did look at her and made some conclusion. And yes, there was a delay in the transportation to UA because she needed to get more advanced. Now, if you understand how the hospital system works, and it doesn't take away her circumstance, there is a referral process. There are some cases that cannot be treated at a type C hospital, which is Falmouth. And indeed, depending on the extremity of the case, which this one was, without going into details, that person, that unfortunate situation, that person had to be transported to the University Hospital of the West Indies, where the highly specialized team were. And that is what actually transpired after a series of tests were done. I don't know about the medication thing that she's talking about. I'd have to check on that. But the system did attempt to treat with the patient. Now, as I said, one has to be very careful how we talk about these issues because they're emotional stuff. When people lose a loved one, they're going to be in a high sense of distress. And it's not for us to try to give an alternative view from what they believe, except to provide levels of counseling and support and to explain. And I believe some of that took place. Maybe it took place after this video. I don't know. But there was an investigation on what transpired. And some efforts were made to address a very serious concern that her mother in this case had. And that's all I can say at this point in time.
Maria, follow up this video, aunt now, please.
Yes, Dr. Tufton. When we come into this space and we speak and advocate on behalf of other Jamaicans, we do so in compassion, but also not wanting it to come on our doorsteps. Because I can talk about two situations that I am familiar with because it affects me personally, where one wasn't able to get a hospital bed. She died sitting on a chair. The other one got a hospital bed, but the IV being in her hand, the bag is empty, so her hand is swelling up because she's being infiltrated. And I had to call a few of my friends who are nurses and stuff and talk to Wayne and making calls all over the place to say what needs to be done here. And somebody said, tell the nurse, just even if you're busy, just turn it off until you're able to get to that patient. And a relative said to me, she doesn't want to say anything because she doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. She don't want anybody to be upset while she was in a situation where our loved one was there with an empty IV fluid bag and the needle is in her hand and nothing was being done. So, I understand where you're coming from where you're sitting. However, some cases are not reported. We hear about the cases that have been reported. If I did not speak out about my situation, no one would know about it. And I'm sure the same thing goes for Mystic. Thank God his mother-in-law is here and same thing had to be done. But there are many cases that are happening that people just can't be bothered to say anything, Minister. How do you, and as a matter of fact, in listening to this case, a few things came out to me. One, pharmaceuticals. Why is it that her relatives had to go and get the medication someplace else? Why did the hospital not have these medications? Two, the bed situation. Why is there a shortage of beds in the hospitals? And I can talk about situations where people having to do surgery and they cannot get the surgery done because their loved ones have to buy the pins and the needles for them to get the surgery. Some person need eye surgery. Somebody has to buy the needle for them to get the surgery. So how do you address these issues? Some of them you don't know. And you gave a statistic in your opening, but where there is one, there are many. How do you, Mr. Minister, address this situation where Jamaicans are feeling it on the ground and not seeing what it is that you're saying. They're not seeing what you're talking about based on their experience.
All right, so you have asked a lot of questions, and it's hard to deal with some of the very specifics without the details. I'm not sure why those drugs had to be bought. What I will tell you, the National Health Fund is giving 3 times more drugs than they did 4 years ago. Their budget has tripled. They're writing 3 million prescriptions from 1 million previously. We have to start when we have this conversation by understanding the health profile of the population. The health profile of the population is not the same today as it was 10 years ago. There is a lot more premature mortality, people dying before 75, premature illness, if you want to call it that, increasing cancer rates. A lot of this, without going into details, is linked to lifestyle, consumption of alcohol, tobacco, salt, sugars, fats, lack of exercise, and I could go on. So there is no doubt that the demand on the system is significant. And as a government, we are playing catch up. We haven't built a hospital in Jamaica for 30 years. The last one was Maypen Hospital. This is the government that is spending nearly $300 million. If you go to Spanish Town, you see a 6th-floor tower is going up, more beds. UWI, we're finishing the space to put another 6th-floor building. Western Child, that's 250 additional beds. And I could go on and on. So this government is the one that is trying to change the current scenario. Now, sometimes we talk in isolation as if Jamaica is the only country having these issues. Some of you folks who have had to go through an accident and emergency ward in your respective countries, I know, I've seen the reports. I've seen the reports in Canada. I've seen it in the UK. People wait 12 hours. Doctors play God and decide who get attention and who don't. But hold on, let me just finish because you raise the point. That
one second before you finish. 1 second, Mr. Minister. 1 second, please. Here is where I have a problem. When you're comparing Jamaica to a developed country, when you can drop Jamaica in one county in Texas, and it is still that county is still bigger. So we cannot be, that's like comparing apples and oranges. So we have to do it with. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make the point that you cannot be comparing Jamaica's situation with other more industrialized countries. That is not a fair assessment.
It is probably unfair to do so because the industrialized countries have more money than we do, as you know. The fact is they should have more. But listen, it doesn't help us. I'm not saying it to say we should be satisfied with where we are. I'm saying it to say it is unfair to create an impression that somehow our house is burning down and everybody else in the world is doing so much better. Because the reality is the health profile of the population has changed. This government is the first in 30 or more years that we have added more doctors, more nurses, more hospital beds, more medication through the National Health Fund. Now, is it enough? No, we have a lot more to do. But let it not be said that we have not done so. Now, does it take away the pain from the people who have had personal experiences? Of course not. And we have to show empathy and we have to find a way to deal with cases where cases need to be corrected. But Jamaica is seeing more Jamaicans served by the health system today in a satisfied way than 5 years ago. And I will challenge anybody on that.
Let me challenge you now. But we not say you're right, them right. How much prescription them right?
3 million prescription coming from 1 million 5 years.
For them don't have no medication at hospital.
That's not true either. The health budget it's not true.
No, but which hospital, Dr. Christopher Tufton? Don't get no medication.
Hello, Wayne, listen to me, because sometimes you believe your own rhetoric and you believe.
No, my rhetoric.
You need to come to Jamaica. And let me to NHF. Yes. I will personally chaperone you into NHF. I will visit the drugstore pharmacies.
No, not the drugstore pharmacy.
When? We have over 200 in the country where anybody with a health card, as a matter of fact, when this government took over, we had only 16 categories of illness that got medication. We are now at 22. We are giving subsidies for prostate cancer.
Subsidies.
Screening. No, but don't say what you don't know, my friend. This is what I'm trying to address. You don't have the information.
Dr. Christopher Tufton,
find it out, and I will help you to find it.
When? Hold on, I come there. Listen me. To write a prescription. People don't have no money. You're in a hospital admit and to send go buy this matter about that.
No, it's free.
Oh, you know mix Dr.
I'd like to address this, Wayne. Good evening. Good evening.
Yes. Yes, come.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Tufton.
Well, when you have a whole guest here that spend more time cussing us, cussing me than anything else, Miss Right Mango is one of them.
Yes. I've had a few, and you can't find me. That's what is important. I know your Prime Minister says that he'll be looking for people. Well, he has clarified his statement now, but I have a lot of experience with the healthcare sector as a healthcare worker myself. And our first encounter, Dr. Tufton, was in 2019 when my 3 kids had dengue. And I spoke to you about it on WhatsApp. And you insisted that there was at the time, your exact words were dengue is endemic. Wasn't yes, it is. But at the time we had a serious outbreak. I was up at Ward 15, where 2 of my 3 children were admitted, the third being admitted on Ward 8 simultaneously, I might add. And I saw children all around me.
That's UWI, sorry, or Busto?
At UE.
Okay.
Ward 8 at UE is an adult ward. My son at the time was 17. The younger 2 were on Ward 15. And you insisted at that time that there was no crisis. It so happened that in 2019, it was a crisis. And we saw where many children died. I listed them on my page almost daily. But that is water under the bridge.
No, but you have to be careful how you accuse me, because the truth is there was a 1-year dengue outbreak. I think 2019 was the year, and we never shied away from saying
you shied away initially.
No.
You insisted initially, Dr. Tufton. And I can go back into my archives and show where I spoke on it every day. And the JLP. Wait, let me finish my point. The JLP. What you say now, the ones that are spreading misinformation and fake news. But the ones that are on the JLP side now, that you people big up in Parliament, now they came to attack me. I am the one with my children who couldn't get beds initially because the wards were filled with dengue. And initially, Dr. Tufton, you said that it's endemic, you didn't take it seriously enough. But fast forward, make we leave the dengue. I noticed, Dr. Tufton, you can go back to it, but I noticed, Dr. Tufton, that you have a penchant for blaming people for their misfortune. You keep saying that Jamaicans are not taking their healthcare seriously. Jamaicans, for instance, the other day, with the increase in the maternal mortality rate, you said that Jamaican women aren't taking care of themselves as they should. Number 1, is the access the same? That is number 1. You said it, I think, when we had the dead baby saga during your time, you said that women were not taking care of their health and more of them were having bacterial infections. You said that at the time too. This time now, and on this program, since night, in responding to Maria, you basically deflected to the point that people were not taking care of themselves. People are not. Ordinary people do not know how to take care of themselves, especially if they see the health system as being full of obstacles. Now, all of this discussion is so interesting. Caroline Cooper has an article in today's Gleaner, basically outlining the horror story that her brother Kingsley Cooper had to go through to seek medical attention and to get out of Jamaica to seek medical attention. You know, when people who are better off in society start complaining about what is happening in the healthcare system, you know that something is wrong. Now, Dr. Tufton, you might not want to admit that anything is wrong, but incidentally, today is my son's 14th birthday, but that same little boy last year had gastroenteritis. His primary care physician works at Kingston Public Hospital, and she asked me to take him to her immediately. Dr. Tufton, there were no stretchers in the accident and emergency unit. None. I had 2 stretchers donated. You can ask your SMO, Dr. Natalie, right? I had 2 stretchers donated. That's number 1. I didn't want him admitted at KPH. I begged them. I was able to take him to university where he was admitted. There were no rehydration salts. I had to leave university to get my son rehydration salts. There were no antibiotics that he needed. There was no medication. And this is my own experience. So I don't know what you're talking about, the Venlis and the NHF and the JADEP. But when you are admitted in the hospital, the patients have no access to medication. So I fully well understand what this lady is speaking of. Her mother died because I have experienced it myself.
You have to give some timelines on the question.
Okay, yes, okay.
Well, this was last year. This was last year. This was last year.
Hold on.
That kind of beat up business. You have to give me a chance, right? Since I've been
I'm just outlining some of the situations that we are encountering.
Let me respond to you because I will. Again, I am very sensitive to anyone who has suffered affliction of illness, including your children. And I'm glad they have recovered and that the public health system, despite all you say, have contributed to their recovery. But let me just clarify a few things, because a lot of things you've said are half-truths and some of it outright inaccurate. And I'll challenge you on it. First of all, we only declare a dengue outbreak when the data supports a dengue outbreak. Dengue is always here because the Aedes aegypti mosquito is always here. So you can challenge me of not declaring an outbreak at a point in time, maybe during the time when your sons had it, which is unfortunate that they did. But you cannot challenge me on when that data supported an outbreak, because there's a statistical data that determine when it spikes to determine an outbreak. The day that was determined, we went to the people and spoke to them. So please, that's not correct to say. Secondly,
a follow-up question.
Let me finish. In fairness to me, please. I understand that you want to beat me up, but I feel like the victim now, right? No. Anyway, it's fine. So let me just say this to you. It's highly unlikely, and I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt that probably you didn't know that a Kingston Public Hospital don't have a stretcher. They may not have had one at the time, and I'm sure they appreciate any donation because we accept donation. It's highly unlikely that the University Hospital of the West Indies, which has a pharmacy, which is our tertiary level institution, don't have the things that you say that they did not.
Oral rehydration salts. I was sent to buy it.
Highly, highly unlikely. But
well, I bought it because the doctor told me that the pharmacy didn't have any. Okay.
And thirdly, when the dengue outbreak was determined, we freed up University Hospital, as you know, is an institution that charges money normally. We had the spillover from Bustamante to university in order to cater to the overflow because of dengue. And we know that young kids are more vulnerable, or older people in these instances. And the government took action and we managed the process. I know how
you took action too late, Dr. Tufton.
No,
because let me tell you why. I want to explain to you my concern.
You really give me a chance.
As a blogger that I was seeing, as a blogger and what I was seeing.
Yes.
Because the medical doctors, the private practitioners were not aware that there was a dengue outbreak, Dr. Tufton. They were prescribing medication that was contraindicated in dengue. Let me finish. And children were getting cataflam. No, but Dr. Tufton, if you don't notify them,
every year,
if you don't notify them, they don't assume, Dr. Tufton. And children were getting NSAIDs, which caused the death of a few children. Well,
hold on.
So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying.
I have to give up on you, Camila, because let me tell you,
I know you would.
No, I give it up.
I know you would. I know you would.
You're hearing, but you're not listening. We have a period in our history, on our calendar year, when the mosquito, the vector index spikes. You're normally in drought or in rain. Every year, the health system, through the chief medical officer and our SMOs, sensitize the institutions around dengue. The data that comes on dengue flows from the parishes through our centennial sites. It's a reporting, compulsory reporting mechanism. Some private doctors don't do it. Public system has to do it. It is that data that we use to determine whether you have an outbreak or not. An outbreak not just declare like that. There are international standards around outbreaks. And that's when you declare when it happens. I remember the period, there's a 1-year outbreak. And it was challenging because we had a lot of dengue cases. And by the way, it wasn't a Jamaica problem. It was an America's problem. Because I have to say it because the temptation on this program is to attribute every negative with the Jamaican administration, and it is wrong to assume that.
Jamaica we are talking about.
All right,
but here's it. Hold on, 1 second away. 1 second away. Let me say something to Minister Tufton on that. The reason, you see, we keep hearing we spend the most money, but guess what? We see the least results for the most money spent.
And that's not
true. That is the problem we're having. And then there's no accountability for that. But that's for a later conversation.
That's perception. That's not fact. 3 million visits a year, 200,000, 3 million prescriptions when it was 1 million. That is not less benefit. That's more benefit. And
prescriptions don't equal to medication being dispensed. But Dr. Tufton, I have a serious question. Is there a CT scan machine at Children's Hospital?
I have to check. I don't know. But what I'll tell you, let me tell you. Hold on. Let me clarify that, because that leaves an opening now to condemn us as usual. Let me just clarify that. Where there is no CT scan at an institution, and I do agree that we need to have it at certain institutions. It's not going to be at all, because there's a referral process. We have a public-private outsourcing method where patients, which never was the case before, by the way, when I went there and CT scans weren't working, people had to pay for it and come back to the doctor. They can go to a private facility, get the scan done, free of cost to them, paid for by the government. Last year, we spent nearly $1 billion, and that result is taken back to the hospital. We're moving moving into a leasing arrangement now, because here the problem with CT scans and these machines. The servicing regime is poor. We do not have the technical people to service them. They are highly complicated machines. So what we're going into now is leasing, where when we lease it, the manufacturers will have to take care of it. And we are now in that process, and that's going to solve a lot of the problems.
So all right, a follow-up question. I have a follow-up question.
Now I make a follow-up, but let me ask you something. So how is it that the private hospital can get for them CT scans service, but the public hospital don't have no
technicians?
That's not entirely true, because even with the outsourcing of the private players, we have cases where they have problems with downtime. Let me tell you something. One of the problems we have, and it may involve some of you online right now who don't reside in Jamaica.
I reside in Jamaica.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. The mass migration, although not always happy with your opinions sometimes, but it's your right to your opinion.
Okay.
The mass migration of our talented people. Do you know that within 5 years of a university graduate, I think it's probably 60 or 70% of them migrate. So we do have a problem with talent in terms of retention. And that's why we have to do more to try and have that kind of sharing. I wanted to come back to Ms. Kamala with the issue of the Jamaican people, because that is just false. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. If you as a citizen don't appreciate that in health and personal health, there is something called personal responsibility as a key part of health in terms of the choices we make. If you go ahead and just drink, smoke, don't control your nutrition, don't exercise, your inevitable end result is going to be that you're going to end up in accident and emergency. And unfortunately,
it's not unique to Jamaica.
Mr. Minister Tufton, on that point, Mr. Minister Tufton, on that point,
do you what system must provide support, and we do, but it is a runaway train if you think the only solution is for the system to provide facilities. We have to.
So where's the primary care?
Why do you think we have no?
But hold up a second. Minister Tufton.
Yes.
Here is my problem with this now. You talk about personal care and taking better care of themselves.
Yes.
They don't have a livable wage. They're not eating. They don't have proper nutrition. Most children and people are going to bed hungry most Jamaicans without a proper nutrition. Hold on. Jamaica has a poverty problem. There's a serious poverty problem in Jamaica. The poverty rate, Minister Tufton, the poverty rate in Jamaica is sky high. It has increased.
No, it's
where
not.
You talk about, you like to talk about. It is true. And they're eating junk food. They're not having a proper, hold on, Minister Tufton. They're not having proper nutrition. No, even if they eat to go to bed, it's not the best nutrition. It's not the best. It's junk food. Let us talk about the imported junk food. Another thing, Minister Tufton, they do not have a livable way to afford a proper nutrition for their children. So we cannot be talking about personal responsibility. Of course, personal responsibility is important. It is. But and then you're going to talk about low unemployment, but we don't even want to get into that because that's another whole kettle of fish right there. But let's look at the poverty rate that contributes to the eating habits of these people. So the medical system is in a preventative situation. They're not into preventative, they're into a curative.
Absolutely.
So people don't have the things. Yes, they're just a curative. So they don't have the necessities, Minister Tufton. They do not have a livable job to afford good food. Period.
Maria, hold on now, because I want them answer. We don't want them talk over each other. So when it says something, and then
I don't want to cut you, but the truth is, poverty is the lowest it has been in the last 15 or more years. 7%. According to Statin. Hold on, that's the official stats. No. Is it that everybody let me finish. Is it that everybody is getting adequate nutrition? I am prepared to say no. And I'll tell you why. You go into the schools, which is why we're promoting a nutrition policy. And the truth is the children are exposed to a daily dose of salty, sweet, deep fried chicken, and I could go on and on. And so we all need to come together to deal with that. Sometimes it's a matter of the options they have. It's the choices they make. It's the marketing that is applied to that. By the way, that's a global thing too. But the truth is, it is not that we know as government and as the people, as parents, all of you look like your parents, have to play a role in influencing that. And the government has promulgated a school nutrition policy, sugar drink restrictions in school that has started, okay? And the Know Your Numbers program that some feel is not sufficient has been the outreach program to help Jamaicans to understand why it is important. We have already screened over 100,000 Jamaicans, their blood pressure, their blood sugar, their other critical statistics, BMI, and counseled them on the importance of how they take care of themselves. In fact, we have saved many lives because when we go into like Maypen recently, 4 weeks ago, there are at least 4 people there that had to be transported to the hospital because they are hypertensive and didn't know they were walking with blood pressure levels that were out of whack. That is a proactive stance that the government has taken. Now, let me just
But Dr. Tufton, you see the irony of the situation. I don't want you to move away from the school program with the nutrition in schools before you make your follow-up point. I find it absolutely I don't even know which adjective to use, but the irony of the situation in all of this is that fast food outlets control the canteens in most schools. If it's not mothers, it's tasty. And the children are fed a steady diet of junk food, right? Junk food. So it's kind of strange you said to me that they are trying to control the sugary drinks in schools. when my son goes to a popular high school in Jamaica and all he has access to is sugar drinks, soda.
I hope you give him a little lunch kit and encourage him to drink water.
Well, I do what I can, but at the end of the day, the options are limited in the school. And I feel sorry for some of these parents who are unable to afford better options because what is in the school canteens? Junk food.
Which is exactly
when you have like mothers and tasty, all they're being fed is a constant diet of patty and as you said, fried chicken. So where are they? This is where it starts.
Which is why the nutrition policy that is being promulgated between the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health, what it will do, it will provide guidelines as to what is permissible in the schools. So a child is going to have better and healthier options, which includes the cafeterias, whoever controls them, whether it is a cook or is a fast food outlet, they're going to have to adjust to the menu options. And I don't know if you know, but we have recently hired an executive chef in the Ministry of Health to help with the preparation of some of these things, working with the Ministry of Education. So we're doing some stuff, but it is a problem.
How about a nutritionist?
All right.
Or a dietitian?
We have many nutritionists and stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
You're not asking the other people, and you have so many people on your
program. Some other people come now. Hold on a minute. May I play something and then go to some other people and then we'll come back here? Because we just want to go to. Hold on. Let me play this and then me ask Dr. Tufton something about this.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Health Minister says U.S. medical travel advisory and negative light on the country's health sector, the country's public health care system. As you'll hear in this report, the minister is renewing his call for the implementation of tax, which he believes can help to fix the problem.
The Healthcare Ministry says the recent U.S. travel advisory has created a negative impact on the country's health system on the international scene. The advisory issued on Tuesday urged U.S. citizens to reconsider travel to Jamaica due to crime and medical services. Americans were told that emergency services and hospital care vary throughout Jamaica, and response times and quality of care may vary from U.S. standards. The U.S. government says public hospitals in Jamaica are under-resourced and cannot always provide high-level or specialized care. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the issues in the health sector cannot be looked at in a silo.
The issue is a lot more complex than it appears in a release or an advisory. The solution can't be that we must do more. The solution has to recognize why there is an inadequacy to the extent that there is, and how collaboration between public, private, and indeed between jurisdictions can address that inadequacy. And it holds true for Jamaica as it does for many other small island states within the region, and indeed even some of the larger countries.
And again, an appeal for a health insurance tax for all visitors to the island.
It is not unusual. It occurs in other jurisdictions like in Europe, where that tax is required. And if that were in place, maybe we could have a more efficient response, because maybe that tax could be used to train more people and perhaps provide more facilities.
Opposition spokesman.
All right, so me could just go back to this now, Doctor, because you admit we have crisis, we have problem, and the travel trade advisory too, it hurt Jamaica, you know. Even with travel and everything. And you admit it right here. Let me just Ratty.
Well, there are some realities that we have to face.
Yes.
The number of tourists that are coming to Jamaica, which we're happy for, we like the tourism dollar, has quadrupled over the last number of years. I think the last count we had about 5 million between stopovers and cruise ship. We're coming from probably 1 million. I mean, a decade ago.
No,
the reality. Well, I might be off. I don't track the numbers in my head, so forgive me if they're off. But the truth is, this is the highest number of arrivals we've ever had. We have built more hotels, we have more rooms. People come, and they have a lot of fun. Now, you know, a lot of people come and they overindulge. That's part of their fun. Drink, them enjoy themselves. Fine, that's fine. And often, more often than not, what you find because of the increased numbers is that more people are getting ill for one reason or the other. Now, the truth is, cannot cater to the increasing numbers. God forbid a cruise ship down at Falmouth with 15,000 people on it. Something were to happen. By the way, things have happened before. We have had diarrhea outbreaks and all that, and we have had to send back ships. But God forbid something drastic were to happen, and those persons who had to be treated. We couldn't do it. All I'm saying is, in recognizing the need for more to be done, understand one reality. That more to be done can be building more hospitals for tourists. Our obligation, first and foremost, is the Jamaican people, clearly. Our guests we have to take care of because we encourage their dollars to be spent here. But there are other things that can be done. Not to mention, frankly speaking, that our healthcare workers, which is a major bottleneck, the US is the major recruiter of our healthcare workers, our nurses, and so on. So in a sense, there's an irony in that call to do more without recognizing the limitations and why we have to go beyond just building out hospitals. So when I spoke about the insurance, I wasn't asking for a tax. What I was saying is that if a tourist gets ill and has to be airlifted out of Jamaica to go to the mainland, maybe Miami, for example, that there should be some sort of insurance arrangement. And it happens in other jurisdictions. Just put those things in place. So what needs to happen? And the government has a role to play. And maybe I'm speaking out of turn. And if the Minister of Tourism may have a different perspective. But the truth is, from a health perspective, the US has to recognize, and I say so respectfully, because I agree that it is their right to advise their citizens, that the only way to expand security from a health perspective is through collaboration. And that applies across the board. And what I had asked for is a sit down to say, what else can we do? Should a tourist coming to Jamaica pay extra $5 or $10 to get insurance if they have to be airlifted out? They are airlifted out. I don't think that's an unreasonable request. I don't think it's an unreasonable request.
Because it's something to you, right? Because it's something to you too. Because me know that's spin. Me know you're good on the PR. So what do you
no, you talk about PR as if it's a bad thing. Listen, I can't do my work and keep it under a bushel in a boss.
Me know that.
You broadcast your opinions to your 125,000 people on your page, and I checked it out, right?
201. But you know, probably Dr. Tufton, you belong in Ministry of Information. I think if Andrew Holness put you as the Minister of Information, JP couldn't go do nothing wrong.
I am not shy or bashful about speaking about the good work of this government and about.
That's why you should be in information and not healthcare. That's why you should be in information and not healthcare, because you are very good at what you do.
I'm not telling any lie. I'm not doing any fib. I'm saying it as I see it. I've always accepted challenges. I will also praise those who have done good.
The travel through advisory, this is the first time you can admit to me. Them always have travel through advisory and security. Never
crime.
First time in Jamaica history we have it an health system. And what them never take people. Not them have to be careful because the hospital though it don't have nothing there. So we not talk about them.
That's not what they're saying. Fairness, stop exaggerating. That's not what they're saying. They are saying that
I'm going to get back. All right. So mystic, where you hear them?
No, that's not what they're saying. They're not saying the system don't have nothing there. What they're saying is that the volumes of tourists coming in makes the attention that they may require in an emergency more difficult. And I agree with them. I agree with them, and that's why I say we have to collaborate around a better way. A better way. I agree. I can't.
Can I read the travel advisory? I have it right here. Can I read it?
No, come on.
I have it right here.
Hold on a second, Kamala. Before you read the travel advisory, let's go to Mystic Sensation.
Mystic, Mystic.
Thank you. Dr. Tufton, I want to say, you know, it's wonderful that you make it on the program. right? We appreciate that. Now, I want to ask, as it relates to something that you spoke earlier in your starting, right? You quoted a statistics as it relates to record of all the persons receive patient care within the healthcare system. Only 1% of such person, right, complain about the system. I'm going to ask you again, where did you get that statistics?
All right, sure, not a problem. So, and by the way, it's not persons, it's visits. Because remember that
Visits,
one
okay.
person may visit multiple times, right? You have some
Okay.
people go to clinic every month. We have a grievance procedure in the ministry where anyone who has a concern or a complaint can lodge that concern or complaint.
Okay.
And I get a report on average every quarter of where those complaints are from, meaning institutions, what the nature of the complaint is, what kind of investigations are being done to address the concerns, and I could go on and on. So there is actually a unit that does that. Now, I do agree with Daisy. Not everybody who have a complain through the process. Some of them go up on TV, some go up on social media, some report it to Wayne Lonesome, and him broadcast it across his thing. And it's unfortunate, but I understand, because some of them may perceive that they can't get any justice or a fair hearing if they lodge it with the formal process. If I were to be critical of the system that I preside over, and this is a legacy issue, didn't start with me, I'm trying to address it, is that as a system, all the good that we do will be overrun if we do not demonstrate greater empathy as public. Patient comes into an A&E and they want a question answered. We must find the time to answer the question. Therapists, I tell people, therapists start at the gate. It's not the medication. When somebody come in distress and they want to know about them loved one, or they want to know, tell them that they have a pain, if you tell them to go sit down over there and don't listen to them, they're going to become irate. When someone tragically passes, if you don't provide appropriate counseling to go through the whole process with the patient, which is standard or should be standard, they're going to assume things. And so we need to work on that. And there's no doubt in my mind. But back to your question. Okay. We go based on the data that have been, the complaints that have been lodged. But I can say that some of those have not been lodged either. So it could be more.
Okay. All right. So what I want to show you, and I'm going to ask Mr. Lonesome to put it on the screen, right? Because what you said as it relates to that 1%, what we are looking at on a 2023 data, we are talking about 52.2%.
That's rubbish. I can tell you straight up, is absolutely rubbish.
Hold on, Mr. Tufton.
More than half of the patients complain. That's foolish.
Hold on, Mr.
Anyway, let me see.
Just Wayne Lonesome put up that.
This one made us send me, yeah?
Public health crisis.
Where you get that from, by the way? Tell me the source.
You're going to see it. You're going to see it, and you're going to read it.
Yeah.
So we could just put it up here. Hold on.
So break that down for us and tell us what that means.
I'm not seeing it yet.
Hold on. I'm going to put it up now. Can you see it?
Yes.
Read it out, Ivan.
Increase the funds.
The fund to 200.
Go. 223. Go now.
Okay, so let me read it.
Yeah, read it.
And as it relates to the subtopic,
yes,
access to quality healthcare in Jamaica. Right? Yes. Let me read it. Public health crisis. Jamaica's iconic reggae and beaches backdrop, right? A public health crisis, the legacy of colonial slave based on economy, birth, the traumatic post-emancipation public health care system present in Jamaica today. Healthcare is a dimension of poverty on the island. The multidisciplinary poverty index, MPI of 2022, estimated that 78,000 Jamaicans live in multidimensional poverty in 2020. The index splits poverty in 3 dimensions: health, education, and standard of living, and scales the intensity of deprivations for each, compared to selected other Caribbean and Latin countries at that time. Healthcare deprivation. This is what is important, Mr. Tufton. Healthcare deprivation was greatest in Jamaica at 52.2%.
Who is that coming from?
Well, this is coming from burgeonproject.org, and it is an original organization. It's an official organization. This is not a .com.
With due respect, I could probably find a source that said there is no complaint at all, but it wouldn't be credible. And this one is not credible. I have the data, and I'm giving you the data. I can, and by the way,
here's the data. Show us the data. Show us the data.
I don't have it here in front of me, but I'm telling you how many people visit the health centers here.
Hold on. Dr. Tufton, you said something. Yes. You spoke specifically for particular data, right? Yes. Which you said only 1% been complaining. We showing you, you understand, something that oppose that. What you need to do, get to your data.
No. You can't put me on the block for a source that I know nothing about. That source could be written by you for all I know. I'm not saying
No. I still want to read the travel advisory.
I'm also very familiar. But you focus on the travel advisory. That is more credible. Focus on the travel advisory. That is more credible. But I can't accept a source that I know nothing about and cast any aspersions or jump into that and be brought into that. That don't make no sense. What does that mean, my friend? You live in America. You ever go on social media and say, you ever see how much thing that Kamala put out every day about the JLP? You believe all of it? I don't. But I listen to it.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Are you telling me that you believe everything you read and everything you see?
But that does not make you the arbiter of the truth, Dr. Tufton. It doesn't make you the arbiter of the truth.
Don't insult my intelligence. We must always question sources of data and what the rationale and motivation is.
Make me just go on because one bring your data.
Come back. What are you saying, Vince?
Aromatic. Come ever go to Ratty and Urban and then we just go around. Because them not talk yet.
Yes, and you tell me 101 is and the 101 got already, but anyway, I'll still give you some more time. I'll give you some more time.
Arrow, turn on your mic.
Good evening, Mr. Minister. It's a pleasure talking with you, sir.
All right, Mr. Aromatic.
Yes, I know you have a your major is business management and marketing, right? That's where.
I taught at the university, entrepreneurship, international business, marketing, yes?
Yes. So I know that you're trying to spin your way out of everything here tonight.
I'm not trying to spin anything. Ask the question.
Yeah, I know. And the way you are talking tonight, anyone is listening to you right now, they would say Jamaica is one of the most beautiful places and everything in Jamaica is okay. But you say poverty is down, the most money for tourism, hotel room and all of that. But let us piggyback and you touch a point when you say the world, the country, the first world country, and their healthcare, where you say they have more money than us, so they can do more things. But I would normally say they have more money than us. I think they manage their money more than how we manage our money. Because when time you look at your ministry, sir, and now we can't give account for $700 billion in your ministry. And it's also another 7 million worth of computer equipment also gone missing. Another $35 million worth of, another $35 million missing without proper procurement document. It's gone. And you are here tonight telling us, like everything that everyone else is saying, you're saying, no, their information is wrong, but yours is right. But my question to you tonight, as much as you want to live in your denial, the reality is our hospital, they are in shambles and they are in the worst in the history of Jamaica. And that's the reality. So your denial, it's not gonna prevent the reality, because the reality is on the ground. We see it every day. People are sleeping on floor. People have to sleep in wheelchair for 2-3 weeks. Can't get any bed. No dialysis machine. No CT scan. You understand what I'm saying? All these things, shortage of bed, Mr. Tufton. In this, and then you are here tonight, Mr. Tufton. And the thing that I am saying to you, sir, is it your direct? It is your
duty.
Can I put it?
Your duty. Simple.
Can I start responding?
No. Is your desire was to run down our health facilities in Jamaica, or it was the Prime Minister desire? Because the Prime Minister is your boss. And if you get a task and you are not fulfilling that task, I think it is the right of the Prime Minister to step in and say, Mr. Minister, I expect this from you, and I am not getting it from you. So therefore, I'm gonna have to replace you with somebody.
Here.
And if the Prime Minister does not do that, then it is telling me that who is running the country. Right. I cannot give you a job, Mr. Tufton, and you fail to perform that job, and I still have you in that job.
You're asking questions, or you're giving commentary? Because you're
making answer. Yes.
Wayne, the only thing I'll say to you, Wayne, you must have some more objective people on your program.
Yes.
I mean, all the questions has been one-sided and clearly aimed for the most part at undermining a system.
No, they're not undermining.
I have no problem with criticism. Let me just respond to aromatic.
Yes.
Right. First of all, I don't know if you know, but do some research. And this is not a criticism of any system, because I am focused on Jamaica. The healthcare in America is probably one of the most expensive in the world. Inequality in America is wider in terms of healthcare access than Jamaica. But that's for you to go do research and find out, right? Secondly, there's no such thing about $700 billion missing. That is propaganda. And let me tell you, hold on, let me finish. I give you a chance to talk. You must allow me to talk.
Yeah, I'm going to allow you to talk.
The Appropriations Bill Committee, has inquired of the Ministry of Health around accounts that have not been signed off on. By the way, that doesn't equate to stealing money. The money was spent, but it wasn't signed off on. Now, I agree that transparency requires that to be the case. And by the way, it's not in the Ministry of Health alone. It's in a number of ministries. And it's due for some technical reasons, the software that logs these things. But in our case, I can say that a lot of the missing data started between 2013 and 2016, when the previous administration, the one you support, was in office, where a lot of the projects were not signed off on. And as a result, we need to now log 10 years of information, starting with those 3 years. And we can't find the people who were in charge. They had to migrate, some of them died. And I believe the permanent secretary spoke to that. Now, will we get to a point where we can? There's a lot of work that's going on, because I agree with you that it needs to happen. But just to avoid any misunderstanding, if there is blame to be apportioned on this issue of the 700 billion, it has to cut across administrations, one. And secondly, it cuts across ministries. And we all have a burden to deal with that, because I agree with you that taxpayers' money must be accounted for. But it does not equate to corruption or misappropriation. And that is where I think you guys have your knickers twisted in terms of drawing that conclusion.
No, it's not twisted, but Scotty, hold on. Scotty, go ahead.
Minister Tufton, good night.
Mr. Rattigan, you're also
good night.
You're also
I beg your pardon?
I say you're also
famous. Did you say famous or infamous?
Maybe infamous. It's right.
Okay. I'll take any one of them. I'll take any one of them from you. Well, good night to everyone in the chat. Good night to the panelists. Good night to every single person listening or watching the program. No, I was going to yield my time to Aromatic, but it looks like we're running out of time. But listen, before we go any further, you're immobile, right? To some degree.
My leg is broken, right leg and my left
So you
wrist.
can't go nowhere. So so the our thing where you give it, just put that aside. You can't
boy,
speak, you
you
can't
know,
spend
if
time. You
somebody
have
wants
a go. It's Sunday night, you know what's to go. Your foot broke. It's just stay right
no,
there.
I'm a curfew. Go on, anyway, go on. How about
No, you're not no curfew.
another 50
No,
minutes.
you can't move. Just stay right where you are. No. Let me start off by asking you. I have in my hand here a document called Ministry Paper number 69, job description for ministers of government. Are you
Right.
familiar with it? You familiar with it?
Boy, I can't tell you about all the details.
Careful how you answer me.
No, I can't tell you about all the details. I wouldn't want to comment on something I've not seen. You say you have a document, but tell me what's on it.
It's right here.
All right,
Sit
tell me
down.
what's on it. Yeah.
No, it's your job to know it because it describes what you're supposed to do.
I'm
But
very
since you say you're
clear on
not
my
familiar with no, but hold on. Since you're
yeah.
not familiar with it, I'll be fair to you. I'm not gonna ask any question about that. Let me put that to the side. All right, let me ask you a question that I think you can answer. You have a PhD in administration with an emphasis on business and foreign direct investment, correct?
Yeah. A doctorate in business administration.
Yes.
Anyway,
At one point you were Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, correct?
Yeah.
At one point you were Minister of Agriculture, and in fact you were named Man of the Year for 2010. Yes?
The Gleaner did do that, yeah.
Yes. All right. You've been a business consultant. You've international marketing, business strategy, and entrepreneurship. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done some of that in my life.
All right. Now, with all of those qualifications, they move you to a place where it would seem as if you have the least amount of experience, considering where you came from and what you did. Now, despite all of that, despite all of the things you've heard tonight, by the way, let me commend you for being a very brave man, because to come on this program, you deserve some commendation. No,
you're right. Some people think I'm stupid, but anyway, go on.
You're not stupid. You're brave and you're courageous. I wish the whole of them could have followed your footsteps. No, I say everything I've said before leading up to the question. There's a Blue Dot poll.
Yes.
For last year, and it voted you the best performing minister. And they also did a Blue Dot poll that voted you the best man to lead the JLP besides the Prime Minister. The poll that says you were the best performing minister, it had you ahead of the Prime Minister by more than 8%. Now, my sources have told me that pmJa is ready, willing, and able to throw their support behind you for leadership of the party and ostensibly to take over the government should they be successful in the election. The question is this. Well, before the question, you recently mentioned that you're a public servant and you aspire for higher office. Now, higher office than yours, I think you're referring to the Governor General or the Prime Minister. What do you mean by that, saying that I aspire for higher office, given the fact that you're leading the Prime Minister in the poll to lead the party and ostensibly the country? What do you mean by that?
Well, that series of question is a ripe mix-up, and I'm going to avoid all of that mix-up. Let me just respond firstly by saying that I support the Honorable Prime Minister, and I'm going to work hard to be the best health minister to make sure he remains the Prime Minister. The newscast on Nationwide that you heard was clearly misinterpreted. I did speak to high office, but then right after that I said where we are and where we would like to remain. Notice the term we, right? And of course, the interpretation was applied. Now, on the poll thing, I don't, it's good to know that the Jamaican people, through a scientific process, approve of your work. So I can't tell you, I'd be lying if I didn't say it's a good feeling. Clearly, the opposite could be that they don't approve of you. And I try every day to perform with the team. It's not me alone. It's 23,000 people working in public health. And I'm very grateful to them for the work that they do. But I don't get caught up in polls, because the same poll that put you up today will put you under their feet tomorrow. What I will say is that surveys have been done internally, and it speaks to the quality of healthcare. The Public Sector Modernization Unit does polls periodically. And in fact, the feedback from people who use the service have actually improved in terms of the quality, the service offerings. Now, gentlemen and ladies, I don't want the impression to be created here today that the system is perfect, because it's not. It's a work in progress. There's a lot that needs to be done still. But what I will tell you is that the men and women of healthcare save lives every hour, on the hour, every day, every week, every month, and every year. Many, many lives. And many people are grateful for it. We have to clean up the ones that are not and deal with people's grievances. But it is always going to be the case, because not a perfect science. Listen, a baby drop off a bed and that person, mother, appears on TV, and perhaps rightfully so. All of a sudden, you feel that the healthcare system burning down. Spanish Town Hospital last month, I posted this because sometimes testimonials are good. 241 babies were delivered at Spanish Town Hospital. I think 50 odd or so of them were by C-section. Jubilee delivers 6,000 babies a year. That number is actually declining because fertility rate. And the overwhelming majority of them are successful. So listen, we have to be careful how we beat up on ourselves, condemn everything to. That's what I said to the PNP people the other day when I spoke, and that's the context in which that discussion took place. Because when I said, as people who aspire to higher office, you can't want to burn down the house because you want to preside over the house. That's very unprogressive, and it's morally bankrupt. You criticize what can be criticized or what should be criticized, but you must also recognize that there are people working in the system beyond me who are not politicians. Listen, I can take my licks,
Sounds pretty much like what you all did to Fenton Ferguson to me. Sounds pretty much like what you all did to Fenton Ferguson.
I think it is unfair to cheat upon the technocrats when they have done their work. There's a process to deal with them. You can Parliament, you have Public Accounts Committee, you have all sorts of oversight. But to single them out and politicize them about resignation and so on, it is wrong. And I don't care who do it. Whether it's
so who must be held accountable?
Dr. Tufton. There are processes, Ms. Right Mango. You know that they can be.
I just want to know who must be held accountable, because you are not to be held accountable. The technocrats are not to be held accountable.
I am accountable every 4 years outside of when the Prime Minister thinks otherwise. I have to go to the people. And the people are the ultimate judge of me and my stewardship, as well as the government. What we need to do is allow that process to work. We can burn down the house, the very house that we want.
We don't have to burn down what's already on the ground.
Dr. Tufton, let me just go a quick follow. I recall listening to at the JLP conference where the Prime Minister said that he had received many complaints about the health sector regarding service delivery, so on and so forth. And he said they were all credible. I'll leave that with you. But here's another thing. There are people
receive a lot of complaints every day too. Everybody have my number. And when I get them, I deal with them.
There are people in the thing. There are people in the chat. They're saying that, how come you are a minister and you're not familiar with your job description? But I'll leave that for you another time.
I'm just not familiar with yours, and I don't want to take any chances and say I know what you have in your hand, because next.
Here's a question I want. No, but it's a same document. Here's a question I have for you.
I'm very careful about that. I'm very familiar with my job description.
All right, here's a question.
I don't want you in trouble, Mr. Rattigan, because
I won't.
Court on a dime, and you're not doing that with me. And stand any chance at all.
No. Well, here's the thing. In 2017, the Prime Minister. In 2017, the Prime Minister established the Integrity Commission, right? And sometime thereafter, he asked for training, which the Integrity Commission, by its mandate, is required to do.
Yes.
They provided that training to the cabinet and by extension to the opposition and a number of civil servants. And at the end of that training, they said, we would like you to sign a code of conduct. And I've seen the code of conduct. I've seen the document. It's essentially saying that you agree with transparency, good governance, ethics, honesty, and so forth. Very, very straightforward government principles in terms of good governance. Have you signed that document, sir?
No, I have not. And
listen, you please tell us why?
Hold on, I don't want to get too much into it, because I think the arms of government have to work, and we must allow them to work. What I will tell you though, when I took my oath as Minister of Health, and of Andrew Holness' cabinet, I stood in front of the Governor General, I held up a Bible, and I swore to uphold the Constitution of Jamaica and to follow the protocols that are involved. And as God is my witness, I've tried my best so to do. And, that commitment is there. Now, the IC has its responsibilities. I'd never want to suggest that they shouldn't do what they think is best. And they have the authority under the law to do what they need to do. And listen, I'm not going to get caught up in that kind of conversation, because to me, sometimes it becomes a distraction. And what you're doing is implicating yourself by taking these hard positions. Ask me about health. Ask me about the health center down in which country you come from.
No, hold on a second. But what, you haven't answered the question. The question is, why haven't you signed the code of conduct?
I just told you.
No. You didn't say I didn't sign it because you said
I have nothing more to say on that, except to say, which I've just said, that when I assumed office as minister, elected by the people of West Central St. Catherine, and the government elected under Andrew Holness, I took an oath of office that I will uphold the Constitution and carry out my responsibilities. And I have tried to remain very faithful to that.
All right.
That's as far as I'm prepared to go.
All right. All right, fine. You don't answer the question. Good. One last question.
I answered it. You may not be satisfied with the answer.
No. You provided an answer, but you didn't answer the question. No, let me ask you. Right? Let me ask you.
Yes.
You are a man under tremendous stress and strain and burden, simply because of the portfolio you have and the criticism leveled at you every single day. No, you're not perfect. You're like all of us. We're all susceptible to making mistakes, and we've all made mistakes. What is the single greatest mistake you have made as Minister of Health and Wellness?
Some people would say coming on this program.
No. You. What? No, don't tell me about people. What the greatest mistake you have made?
Listen, I don't dwell in mistakes. My no, but seriously, my formula for survival is to fall down, pick myself up, brush myself off, and continue on the job. I don't cry over errors. I learn from them, and I think we'll be better off doing that.
All right. What's the single greatest
challenge that I've had?
Greatest error?
Ask me what's the greatest challenge I've had.
I'll ask you that after. No, that's the second question. But you have to answer the first question before we get to the second one. What's the greatest?
It's because I don't keep a diary on my errors. I keep a diary on my achievements and my strategy to achieve the best outcome for health. And not I can't tell you about any mistakes. Next thing you use it and put it all over social media that I admit that I made a mistake.
So you don't make no mistake.
I know you're alone smart, But I think because
listen. Hold on a second. Dr. Tufton, we not realize. You should realize this, and you realize this. That
tell me what you think is my greatest
on this platform here now. On this platform, in this chat, you have some of the and the audience, you have some of the brightest people, and they just what they just gleaned from your answer is that you're not answering the question. It's not a matter of trying to track
there's nothing to answer. There's
the greatest mistake you made.
Huh? Yeah. There's nothing to answer.
Ratigan, ask a simple question. Could I ask
No. Mr. Before you come in, I need to interject.
No,
Can I speak with?
Yes, speaker.
Go ahead.
Okay, Dr. Tufton, welcome to the program.
Yes, sir.
And
this is Mr. Nelson.
Sorry, my fellow panelists are boxing you around as if you don't have a doctorate and you should not be respectful, right? Listen, in my past life, I was a intelligence analyst, senior intelligence analyst in the intelligence community. And I learned in a lot of subject matter areas that it can be, in fact, intelligence driven. Now, you just spoke about mistakes being made. Let's go back to 2015. You made a comment that you emphasized the circumstances were different from 2015 incidents with the 2020s incidents with the dead babies. Am I correct so far?
I'm not understanding.
Well, you're being quoted here. This is the Gleaner and the Observer, right? A compilation of different. Let me just finish so you get a better picture. Unlike in 2015, where anxiety persisted, the current situation was promptly addressed and the problem was fixed. Transparency and accountability. Dr. Tufton faced calls for resignation, but defended the response, emphasizing the importance of transparency and accountability in such cases. Okay? Now, understanding that's what you were quoted on in 2022, I believe it were, right? The lessons learned, as you were saying, the reasons for the reoccurrence were complex. You had to address staffing shortages, infection control, and communication with the public remain critical. And you said the tragic loss of newborn lives underscored the need for continuous vigilance and improvement in the healthcare systems.
Where anyone was a
Are you aware of and have you introduced?
I get a report.
I'm hearing a lot of
I'm
hearing some feedback. Somebody's something playing.
Who playing something there? Turn off your thing now. Hello?
Guys, if you can mute,
Sorry about that. My bad.
So you're asking me about the issues. Well, remember 2015, I wasn't in office at the time. We assume office 2016.
No. But I was asking you. You said you learned from past errors or mistakes in the system.
Yeah.
Right. What was it that repeated the baby deaths? Can you identify the cause?
You're talking about the Victoria
why there was a
Jubilee.
repeat of baby deaths in.
You're talking about the Victoria Jubilee incident, right?
Yes.
I'm assuming. Yeah. So I don't have the report in front of me here, but I remember us talking about it at length because a report was generated. Very unfortunate situation, but it boiled down to a few issues around infection prevention and control. One central issue, as I recall, because I don't have it in front of me now, was that the ratio of babies to critical care nurses was far more than it should be. Meaning, in a case, this is a kind of what do you call it? A vulnerable nursery. This is where the babies are very vulnerable, and ideally, the best practices are that you should have one baby to one nurse, maximum 1 to 2. And in this instance, during that period, I think it was like 1 to 7. And that's the explanation of that clearly is that we didn't have those specialized nurses. So what happened was that there was cross-contamination, as I recall, when, ideally when you see a child in a case like that, you really need to change the gloves and change everything and so on. But because a nurse may be tending to 4, 5, 6 people at the same time, they may wash their hand, but they didn't follow through on some of this stuff. That's what I recall. So that was a problem. So I think the response was clearly we're always trying to recruit, because one of the things that I haven't spoken to here is that we have a major shortage of healthcare professionals. Significant. And we're going to have to try and find ways. I've offered a scholarship, you may recall, when I spoke last May, $2.5 billion, $500 million a year for scholarships for people to go and study and come back. We have 26 categories of healthcare workers, not just nurses and doctors, that we're trying to get back into the system will be bonded to work. We're signing agreements with Philippines, and I could go on, Nigeria and so on. We have with Cuba and all that. Because we're going to have to right-size the system as we build out. But that particular incident, there was an infection prevention and control breach. And a part of it, maybe not totally, but a part of it was the ratio of nurse to figure. Let me tell you what.
Are we talking about the 2015 or the 20?
No, I wasn't there 2015. We assume of 2016. Okay. But let me just say.
The reason I ask you that, wasn't it the same problem they had back in 2015? Shouldn't we have seen the lessons learned from back then and have some prevention protocols in place to avoid a repeat?
Sir, let me just say this, sir. until you're there, you really may not fully appreciate that some of these challenges are a reoccurring theme. The reality is that if you have less nurses than you need in the critical care unit, whether it is 2015 or 2016, you're going to be vulnerable to these issues. So the solution is really to find the people. It's more difficult now to find the people than before COVID, because the US, Canada, UK, they're offering not only much higher salaries, they're waiving work permits, residency status, giving people settling allowance. It's a very competitive field. So, and our people are very good at what they do. You all know that. Some of you are involved in some of these things. So we're going to have to do more to train more, which is why the scholarship is offered. But we're going to also have to import. The Philippines, for example, is one of the largest exporters of healthcare workers. They're in England, they're all over. Their work ethic is amazing. They speak English. Their standards of training are high. I signed an agreement with the minister recently in Switzerland, and we're going to be doing a lot there, because we're going to have to bring in a few hundreds of those people, especially the specialized ones. So the problem is that if the problem persists, the risk will also persist. But the truth is, we have done a lot to try and mitigate against those risks by putting in place certain protocols, and it requires ongoing training, which is something that the Office of the Chief Medical Officer does from time to time. Let me just say something to Mr. Rattigan. Mr. Rattigan, I have a regret, not a mistake, but a regret during COVID. And I've said it publicly. We had a young lady who was pregnant, a young 20-odd-year-old young lady. The first time I cried in COVID, and I'm not ashamed to say, as a man, I cried. Tears came down on my face in the parliament, was when this young lady died because there was a suspicion that she had COVID. And she went to a private institution at first. The doctors saw symptoms of COVID and refused to do the C-section. She had a pre-arranged arrangement. She was moved to Spanish Town, then to UWI. She eventually had the child, but she died from complications. It brought tears to my eyes. You know why? Because, well, clearly it's a death, and that's regrettable. But she was being treated as if she had COVID, and she never had it. And that to me was painful. And I was very strong during COVID. I dealt with a lot of issues. I was I worked long hours, but that particular issue I broke down on it. So if you want something genuinely concerning, that was a concern to me. But we were dealing with an unknown, and many people were afraid.
Dr. Tufton, let me just finish up, because a part of the question I asked you was your awareness of AI, artificial intelligence, in applying resources, in investigating, and in predicting. In other words, what you're doing then would be more predictive and intelligence driven. For instance, allocating scarce medical resources. AI can be used to manage resources which can predict which hospital departments may need additional staffing, suggest which patients may benefit the most from additional medical resources, or identify ways to maximize hospitals' operational revenue. That is AI. That's just software we're talking about. That when you apply the logistics, when you apply the supplies, when you apply all of these things across the board, across all the hospitals that you govern, you can see where shortages will exist in the next 2 weeks, in the next 2 days, next 2 months, right? Does Jamaica apply any software that gives you as the minister an overarching review?
Mr. Nelson, let me just say this. The National Health Fund is a model government entity, not just in Jamaica, where it has won private sector awards for good governance. It has won public sector awards. It has competed with private entities and won out. And it's the envy of the region. And you know why? It has a system, a management system, which includes software that tracks the 1,000 vendor list of products that we have, that allows just-in-time delivery of drugs in particular institutions, which is why I could challenge Ms. Kamala about the UWI being out of drugs. And I'm not saying you don't have out of stock sometimes, but it's more the exception than the rule. Beyond that, over the last year and a half, we have started instituting health information systems. The only country in the region that is now digitizing its patient records. Maypen is now online. Spanish Town is to go online in another month or two. Now, the basic summary of that is when a patient comes, he's registered online and his data is stored in a software safe zone. It's transmitted to the doctor's office, to the inpatient care. So the whole idea of the docket is going to over time phase out. That will increase transaction time or reduce transaction time and be more efficient in treating patients. That's part of the transformation that this government is doing. It's not over yet. It's a process, but we're going to do that. Now, AI is a little more advanced and complicated. It's a relatively still new technology. There are a lot of pros and cons with AI. As a matter of fact, people abuse AI on TikTok more than it serves value. I see myself talking things that I've never said before. And I've seen others the same way. Yeah, man, because, you can make people move and them say all sorts of something. You know what it is. A lot of mischief there. And we have to guard against that. But I agree with you that technology is going to play a big role. Let me give you 1 year where it's going to play a big role. The only way we're going to expand training of healthcare workers is to expand remote training, which, because we have a shortage of faculty, because for a nurse to qualify, the ratio of nurse to faculty has to be kept in a particular zone. Otherwise, the nursing council won't qualify that training institution. Or we have shortage of clinical rotation space. If you're training a critical care nurse, they have to work within a critical care space. But technology now allows a trainee to use simulation. So when you go to the US, I was in Hartford, Connecticut recently. They have an entire floor that is a simulation room that has these mannequins that if you cut them, they bleed. And the ratio now of time that you need to spend in hospital around a bed, as opposed to with a mannequin that is highly computerized, if you will, and sensitive, will now be adjusted so you could spend more time in a simulation room. So we're now trying to forge alliances to get that going because, again, I say, folks, one of the biggest weaknesses we have in Jamaica is people. Our people have a good reputation and they migrate and we can't stop the mobility of labor. And that is a big part of the challenge. So we have to find ways to train together.
I could step up something here. Just watch this. I want to play this and then I'll ask.
Hold on. Where you want this to go?
I gotta use the bathroom.
Yeah, this is
I need something to wipe, but I have to use the bathroom right now.
Yeah, but you need to tissue.
I've been asking for tissue since I've been here. I've been asking for tissue since I've been here.
Yeah, but this is not.
And there's still no tissue in any of the bathrooms. I've been asking for tissue since I've been here. I've been asking for tissue. No one's giving me any tissue. I also need another diaper. I need another diaper and I need some tissue. I've been asking for tissue since I've been here and now she's mad because I'm using paper towels. What else am I supposed to do? Can I have a diaper, please? This shouldn't be like pulling teeth.
We don't provide those personal things for patients.
How am I supposed to know that when I'm not from here? Okay, so somebody should have informed me.
No, that really throw me off, because she's a visitor. I think you'll come out and say something about that. Not even
I know that. No. Let me just say to you that there are two issues. Firstly, that case, as I understand it, was a case where it's a foreigner. I think it's a UK citizen who had some particular issues, medical issues, and apparently had gone back and forth requesting that particular commodity. And I think the nurses got a little irate. And I agree that the response should not be that. But it resulted in that response. But beyond that, there is a general practice in the public health system where when you need that kind of material, like toilet tissue, you request it because, again, I know I'm going to be accused of blaming patients. We lose rolls of toilet tissue very frequently. But it is used very frequently. It kind of disappears once it goes in there. And so normally you have to ask the nurse's station when you need it, and then it is provided. But in that case, I think the patient was going back and forth and doing it multiple times. But
she asked the nurse though, Dr. Tufton, and the nurse said she don't provide those kind of things here.
What's interesting?
She asked the nurse.
I know, and that's not true. You know what's interesting about that? That very day, when that thing came on social media, I asked the regional director in Western Jamaica. I think it was a Cornwall issue, and asked them to go down to the warehouse and let me see what is in the warehouse. They had mountains of toilet tissue in the warehouse, and the hospital actually had. So as I said, I think the nurse should not have responded in that way. But there is an issue with frequent requests and things getting missing and so on. And I think that was part of the reason. But that doesn't excuse it away.
All right.
Remember, I started by saying that we have to show greater empathy, you know, and I am very firm on that. I do believe we need to work on that.
We really have to work on this. Mystic.
Yeah.
Okay. Minister Tufton, going back to what you said about nurses, because I'm a nurse myself, and I migrated. Now you're saying that you're gonna spend how much money to outsource the nurses to come to Jamaica when we have so many nurses already and people graduating from school. Why not invest and give them a better package so they will stay? Because now you're going to have to give a good enough package to attract these nurses from the Philippines, because I work with them, and your package is going to have to be good, right? And wherever else you're going to be sourcing them from. So why not give our nurses in Jamaica and persons who are coming from schools, give them that package that you're going to offer to persons coming from abroad, so that you can retain the nurses, because it's all about being able to survive, being able to pay your bills, being able to take care of your basic needs, right? So why not just invest that money back into our people at home?
And hold on, Mr. Tufton. You have also said previously that outside entities, right, are taking our nurses because our nurses are good. So then if our nurses are good, just as what my wife said, then why you don't invest in our nurses?
Well, we did with your wife, and she migrated. I think it's you convinced her to leave.
Service, but then I needed to be able to
well, let me make the point. Right? I'm giving you trouble. I mean, labor is mobile, and we can't stop that. And I hope you're comfortable where you are. But let me just say this: 70%, the latest data I saw, 70% of our nurses migrate within the first, I think it's 3 or 4 years or something like that. Now, by the way, the specialist nurses now, not the RNs, the first degree nurses, just to be simplistic, are not always the challenge, except that some may not want to work in certain parishes. So take SAB, for example. We have some shortages there, openings. The posts are there. The money is there. In fact, the compensation review saw on average nurses' salaries going up by over 50%. I think it was more like 60%. So there was a fairly decent increase. But the nurse can choose whether they want to work in SAB or work in Kingston. And we have some issues with relocation. Part of it is accommodation. Part of it is just where they want to live, that kind of thing. But where you have the real crisis, Mystic, is with the specialized nurses. So the critical care nurse, the nephrology nurse, the operating theater nurse, those nurses that have to be further trained. Those nurses they migrate frequently because they get much better offers. It's not a case of not wanting to retain them and keep them. It's a case of them exercising the option to go elsewhere. And that is why we have had to resort to expanding training. The scholarships that we're offering, the 500 million a year for 5 years, is locals we're offering it to. And we're trying to bond them to stay back in the country for 3 years after they get trained. So we are proposing to pay their fees, even if they have to study abroad, as long as they come back for 3 years. So we're doing a lot to try and retain people. But if we don't have them, we have to import. We don't have a choice. That's why we have 300 Cubans in the country, primarily nurses. Because if we never had them, some of the hospitals couldn't function. And so it's not a case of opting for foreigners. It's a case of not having a choice. And that's very important to know.
Let me just say again, because I was trained between 1992 to 1995. And the system that existed, I was bonded and I did my service. I actually worked 16 years before leaving, right? And what we have was a system of rotation. So you'd rotate to the different specialties every 6 months or so, so everybody gets their experience. So where there was a shortage in one area, like even OR and those specialty areas, then you had nurses who rotate through 6 months and you get your training. And then at the end of a period, you decide, do I want to stay in the OR? Do I want to work in med-surg or whatever, right? So I don't understand now how we have this shortage of specialties, because before you used to be able to rotate through to get your experience. Is it that you've changed the system now where you're saying that, okay, because I'm an RN and I specialize in emergency now, I only work in emergency because that's where I decide, because I'm in 29 years in now, right? So I decided to stay in emergency. Is it the system now that they're introducing in Jamaica where you have to specialize in an area and stay in that area instead of rotating where everybody gets their experience? So if you have a shortage in one area, you can, what we used to say, trolley a nurse in that area to help out. I know that ICU was a sort of a hands-off because that is a more highly specialized area and you have to get your your specialty training in that area. But for the other areas, we used to be able to rotate and get our experiences and decide whether we want to stay there or do something else in a different.
If you know how the nursing council is and the in-house training at the ministry in terms of standards and what qualifies you to be a nurse or a specialist nurse, you would know that it's not so easy to change that ship. I mean, they're very rigid in terms of the standards that they set and uphold. So I don't think anything has changed. In fact, I want some of it to change, to be totally frank, because I believe that we could adjust somewhat. So let me give you an example. I think we need to embrace remote faculty. I don't see why somebody like you, who may have the experience and may have some teaching training credentials, can't teach a class in Jamaica via the technology, wherever you are in the US. I don't see why that can't happen. And I'm trying to get the council and others, because a lot of schools, they have about 10 or 12 nursing schools. UWI, of course, being the big one, UWI, UTech, and NCU. They would want to double their capacity for training, but they have a real issue with faculty. And I'm saying register remote faculty, so make sure they meet the standards. But I used to teach on long distance, right? I used to train people from when I was in England, in Jamaica. The point is, it's the same knowledge, right? And you have to just combine that with some of the other practical stuff. So I believe that we need to change somewhat. It hasn't really changed, and that has restricted the capacity to expand. But we do have a problem with people migrating because they feel like they get better arrangement elsewhere, and it's hard to compete with some of those offers that are there, especially after COVID.
We do get than what we get in Jamaica, and it is just really sad that you are going to look to the Philippines now, and I'm sure you're going to have to give them a very attractive package for them to go. And then are you going to give the Jamaican nurses the same package that you are going to be giving that those who are going to be attracting to go to Jamaica?
I don't know what is going to be worked on, but I don't know if it's going to be dissimilar from what we do with the Cubans, for example. The truth is, when people relocate for a temporary period, you have to accommodate their relocation arrangements. So in terms of where they live and that kind of thing. You can't just bring people into your country and they're not going to come if you can't find somewhere.
Why utilize that route
which is going to cost you more? That's what we're
cost
trying
us more,
to say.
cost taxpayers more.
Well, let me ask you a question, because you can't have your cake and eat it. How much is a life worth? I mean, if I need a nurse to run an operating theater to do surgery, are you telling me because I have to pay that person $50,000 more or $100,000 more, I must not, and then have the whole heap of lineup for people who want to do surgery? I have to make
So
some
why not
choices.
offer the
Life
same?
is not an
Why
easy
not?
thing,
Why not offer the same thing to Jamaican nurses who don't? A lot of who don't want to leave.
They're going to feel that they're being treated unfairly, and they're going to want to leave because you're
No,
going to
but
bring these nurses.
I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no. But think about what you're saying, because you're saying that we have a choice. We don't have the people to do the work, and then we get cussing about not doing the work, people waiting long for surgery, etc. And then if we are to get the people, we have to provide some provisions. So then you're saying we mustn't provide the provisions.
Nobody said that, but Dr. Tufton. But Dr. Tufton, in 2022, there is an article where you are saying that nurses is either them if them don't love the job, leave. Right? A lot of these nurses, their grosses were about the poor remuneration that they were receiving. I'm saying, Dr. Tufton, that in 2022, there was an article in the Gleaner which quoted you saying that if nurses don't love the job, they should leave. You understand? And I'm saying, no, why not offer nurses the same remuneration?
Exactly.
Because why not offer them better and I know you're gonna say, well, they just got a 50% increase. Increase from what to what? Because the expense that it takes you to fly how much 100 nurses here, put them up, ensure that they're comfortable. If you took the money that it takes to actually bring a nurse to Jamaica and added it to a nurse's salary that is here, you would have a better retention rate. You literally give the nurses basket to carry water.
And that's the point.
I can speak. First and foremost, let me just say, Dr. Tufton had said something earlier. He had asked if I was if I'm part of the public health system. I worked as a drug rep for many, many years, Dr. Tufton, 10 years. As a drug rep, you have to visit every hospital in a particular region. So I have first-hand knowledge of what goes on in the hospital with my own eyes. You understand? So when you say that, and I know you like numbers and you're a PR guru. That's why I can't. It's like knocking my head on a piece of brick wall. Why do they have you in healthcare? You're a PR guru. You're the most misplaced minister ever.
Why are you dwelling?
You're very good at what you do, but you're not a healthcare practitioner. You are not a healthcare practitioner. So how can you be good at something that you're not trained to do? You should good where you're trained to do, and this is not a criticism. This is just an observation. What I am saying to you, Dr. Tufton, is if the nurses are not properly resourced and they are frustrated, a lot of the times you are saying that sometimes they should speak better to patients. A lot of these nurses suffer from PTSD, literally suffer from PTSD. They have to be doing the work of 2 or 3 nurses. One nurse has to be doing the work of many people. I mean, they have to be turning them hand to make fashion with a lot of the supplies. You know, when Rattigan asked you a question earlier about your greatest regret, and you mentioned Jody Ferran. But Dr. Tufton, I need to remind you of something which probably you can't remember right now, but there was a time when we ran out of oxygen during the pandemic.
We never ran out of oxygen.
That is propaganda, but it was reported in the media. So how is it that I am spreading propaganda when you have... almost, but Dr. Tufton, there were reports in the media of people dying from lack of oxygen. Is that you're saying it's fake news? Well, you need to take it up with mainstream media.
No, hold on. The oxygen came in at 1 a.m. in the morning. There's video footage of it being cleared and distributed to the hospital. So stop it.
Yet a nurse at SAV died. A nurse at SAV General Hospital died. Is that fake news too?
It's a lonesome.
Fake news. It wouldn't be a fake news because like, even if you clear it, it wouldn't be
a lonesome. Hold on, no. I gave you. This is now 1 minute shy of 2 hours, and I was supposed to be on time now.
Something
I'm gonna give a summary now, right? So I want to just say.
Hold on, please. Before you do a summary, this. I want them a good brethren. Everything I come to me like you know, it come like I'm here the next. Remember this yesterday. I want you to do something for that person and for me. Hear this. I'm gonna play it.
You know, so my sister admitted in
No.
Hospital last night, right? And she pregnant, 5 months pregnant. And her pressure high. She shot her blood and she constantly a shake and in one pain like when you have ego or something like that. And then the baby heart rate too fast. So the doctor said that they think it could be COVID and it could be dengue doing it. So she that they can't give her anything for the pain or anything. Only them giving her because they don't know what happening to her. So they extract 2 bottles of blood from her, right? She short of blood, she need blood, and yet still they take 2 bottles of blood from her. Anyways, them say we're going to test the blood to see if it is dengue or COVID. But guess what? They don't have no facility at the hospital to test the blood to see if it's COVID or dengue. So you want to tell me that the hospital can't even test because COVID or dengue test, them can't do that? So she have to go wait till tomorrow when lab open. My mother have to go take the blood and carry it to a private lab, pay for do the test, and wait until whichever days or whenever they result ready to bring it back just for them know what happened with my sister. Can you imagine that?
So she have a sister and she 5 months pregnant, and last night this happened. Man of the hospital, and them take the blood. She have to go wait till tomorrow to cash in a PAP and the baby heart rate up. And then one for dengue or the other virus.
Yeah, but in fairness, it's not unusual for a lab to not operate 24 hours. I mean, it's not unusual, depending on which institution you're at. But as long as she got it within a reasonable time, if it's the next morning, if she took it in the night, then I hope that has worked out.
No, not yet. Tomorrow. Data from Saturday.
Just a while ago.
Yeah, just last night, but she them take the blood and she's still under pain. Them go give her drip. Them can't get nothing. Normally, eat fast. She said tomorrow her mother have to come for the blood and
or Monday.
Herself.
Yeah. And well, if you send me the information, I'll check on it. But normally, when the doctors assess, even before confirming, they would treat because the doctors have the technical capacity to use symptoms to determine a regime. So the fact that they
won't get anything.
Yeah, well, they will know what to avoid. You know, they will know what to avoid. I mean, I'm not going to second guess the doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. Even though I must say to Miss Kamala or Kamala that the best batsman is not always the best captain. Keep that in mind. A ministry. I was never a farmer and I run Ministry of Agriculture. I was never industry man and I run industry. I'm not praising myself, but I'm just saying to you, what is needed to run a ministry is the people that you work with and the coordination of resources. Now, you can be critical of me in that, but I believe I work with a good team and the team perform for the most part. Secondly, I have done and worked very closely with our nurses. Nobody is more sympathetic to our nurses than me. So please, don't give the alternative view. The nurse is the only stable, the only consistent source. I go to hospitals at 2 o'clock in the morning just for my own education. And when doctors are not around, nurses are always there. So I am more sympathetic to nurses than any other group because they are the backbone of our health system. But the reality is, and we have done a lot for them. So I don't want that impression to be given that somehow we haven't done enough. But Wayne, it's 2 hours.
Wait. 1 second, Wayne. And Minister Tufton, just since we have you here, you know, it is trying to get as much out of you as possible. But there's an issue that we would like to ventilate, right? And it has to do with the... Yes, I hope so. Yes. The issue we'd like to ventilate, it has to do with the Western Regional Children's Hospital. Is it possible to get a RFP and a RFI on the proposal from start to now? You know, the contractors, how the bidding process worked, who got the contract, What was the bond that they put up for the contract? What about the subcontractors in terms of who is responsible for electrical subcontractors, plumbing, that's what, the environmental issues. Just for all of us to understand, why has the project been taking so long? And we still not getting. And also, Minister, who is the project manager on this project? Is that person qualified for the job in terms of having a BA, MA in structural engineering, civil engineering, or architecture? We just want to make sure that monies are not going down the drain from, with people who are not qualified for certain positions. Can you ventilate that?
Let me respond to this last issue, because I'm not going to take any more after this way. No disrespect, but 2 hours is twice the time I had committed. The Western Child and Adolescent Hospital, which, by the way, the opposition leader toured yesterday. I wasn't there, but I'm told he had a good tour. Is being financed primarily, not exclusively, but primarily by the Chinese government. The government of Jamaica also provides some financing, but most of it comes from the Chinese. All the issues around the project management, the contractor was decided by the Chinese. So the contractor that is there was selected by the Chinese government. We had nothing to do with it. It went through a process in China. We have project management. We have people on board from UDC and so on who help to oversee and supervise and make sure that, things are flowing the way they ought to. And we engaged, I think, one outside firm. And I think UDC is the project manager, this urban development. So there's not a lot outside of that. It's really driven by the Chinese. Cornwall Regional is a particularly interesting case, and I'm surprised nobody asked about that until I'm ready to leave, because it requires so much ventilation. It will take another hour. And the truth is, there's Cornwall. This is a hospital which is almost the useful life of a building, built by the Canadians as a gift, which fairly fit for purpose. That chimney coming up through the middle, almost like a coal. Lovely.
We don't want your thing break up like that, because them people say you're running a doctor, so make them fix the line quick and make you finish this.
No, alone some. In all fairness, Dr. Tufton, if you're listening, you should give everybody one more question. That's what you should do, because we only have like around.
Or even a comment.
Yeah,
or even a comment. But him frozen in transmission, so I don't know.
A technical difficulty. He's a brave man. Him not go run, man. But he's supposed to sign out and sign back in. Just come back.
I think he
sign in, because let me say you're run, when I did that on you, him brave. I have thick skin, doctor this, be like Dr. Tufton ways,
Yes, you have to appreciate the fact that he came on the show. And as like Ratigan said, we'd love for more of them to have the courage to do so. We'd love for them to have the courage to do so. But I'm sorry he wasn't able to, explain and go back and go into Cornwall Regional some more, because that was,
there are a lot of things that you did not get to go into. A lot.
Chopper Chenley.
Doctor, you have to sign in back, because if you're not signing back, yes. You understand?
Yeah, boy. He has a lot of questions left. Yes.
Kamla, I pull up just before you ask, I pull up the travel advisory, and I don't think we'll have an answer for it. If you read it,
I know he literally didn't answer it.
So Doctor
Dr. Daz.
Hi, Dr. Daz.
Good evening. Oh, you guys really catch me off guard, and I'm in the middle of a divisional conference about to go up next, so I really can't stay long. But
well, we just have Dr. Tufton, and I know it's a nice thing, and I know you'd have to pass through, because we have to ask him some other little things out the travel advisory, and then we want to ask him about the 700 and something doctors when him did put out in the paper if him did get them, because him said them have a little shortage. If them they get the doctor them in the health system,
Well, all right. Let me first state that you have to listen very carefully what is coming out of the Ministry of Health at any given press conference or release, because they are very masterful with words.
Very, very. As him slick like oil.
You will hear that thousands of nurses and thousands of doctors have been put in permanent posts, and this is what is being touted as an improvement. You would think that these are new positions, but in reality what has happened is that contract workers have been given permanent and pensionable positions. So it's the same doctors and nurses. They move from being contract workers to permanent, and then they put it out that 1,500 doctors and 1,500 nurses, or whatever the number is, have been hired in permanent posts. So it's misleading, and you have to delve into details when you're getting these releases. There is a shortage. There's a significant shortage, and it is getting worse. The nurses are migrating at an alarming rate. This is something I raised in particular concerning the Western Children's and Adolescents Hospital, that they had not started. From the started construction, they should have looked at training nurses and doctors for that specialty. We do not have enough pediatric trained doctors and nurses right now to run that hospital. And now you're hearing about Filipinos. Now you're hearing that I'm creating mischief because they have plans afoot, when the plans afoot should have been 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So you would have been graduating specialist nurses and doctors. No, they never had a plan. So announcing that they have plans to recruit or they have plans to train, there's going to be a lag. And unless we find some creative way of filling that gap, you're going to have a hospital that can't fully open. That is the situation in other hospitals. You have Anata Bay Hospital running right now without a consultant general surgeon to supervise the juniors. You have other hospitals where they're severely short-staffed, nurses and doctors. Nurses are complaining that they're working extra shifts. They're not even getting their overtime. There's a general discontent in the medical field where the junior doctors now are saying that they're not getting the overtime that is due to them. And the consultants who are supervising the clinics and hospitals and the junior doctors, they are up in arms because of this sham of a public sector wage reclassification. You have junior doctors making more than consultants. And that is an anomaly that is pervasive throughout the healthcare sector, at different in the public sector and in hospitals. The seniors who are supervising the junior doctors are getting less than the junior doctors. So overall, there is a general discontent with how the ministry is being run because of staff shortages, because of remuneration, and because of the equipment and supplies that they're working with. And this is in light of the biggest capital spend over the last 4 or 5 years we have seen in a generation in healthcare.
Dr. Dawes, as the shadow cabinet minister for health, right? The hospital have medication there. Because I just tell Dr. Tufton and he must say, well, he must tell me jug serve. I know what my sister used to work as jug serve. She's a nurse in the state, you know.
You have to buy, sometimes you have to send to buy medication outside.
He just accused me of spreading propaganda for saying that, you know, Dr. Dawes.
Well, they know how to track you. But
there you go.
We know that many times you have to give patients prescriptions to get the medication from outside. Even today, Carolyn Cooper, Professor Cooper, wrote in her column that she had to be sourcing medication from outside.
Yes, for her brother. Yes.
For her brother. Even today. So is it that with all of these stories, the lady who lost her mother at Falmouth the other day spoke of medication that she had to buy outside for $90,000?
You know,
we know that you have to do these are not stories that people are making up out of the blue. Dr. Cooper has no motive. That
That's
lady
right.
has no motive to make up a fantastic story like that she bought medication for $90,000. We know the realities on the ground. The workers in the healthcare sector know the realities. The users of the healthcare sector know the realities, and things are bad. There's no other way to describe them. It's bad. One senior doctor is just left the system, said it is actually reached the point of being disgraceful because of all of the money that has been flowing through the Ministry of Health, and there are no tangible improvements, or indices are getting worse. We are looking at a time when birth rates are low, so less babies are being born. Yet at that same time, with less load on the hospitals in terms of mothers are more likely to die now during childbirth than 30 years ago.
40
the
years
infant
ago.
mortality rate is higher than it was 20 years ago. The neonatal mortality rate is higher than it was 10 years ago. All of these figures, these are not data that we're confabulating. These are what I'm describing are data sets pulled directly from the minister's budget presentation this year. That is data coming out of the Ministry of Health. Their own data show that things are getting worse. So we can't be making things up. And then, so you look at it objectively to see that we're getting worse. And then you have the subjective experience of doctors and nurses who are frustrated and fed up. And then you see the stories on social media of all the users who are complaining. You mentioned the travel advisory. That travel advisory is not going to be lifted until some major reform is done. I'm reliably informed that within the last month, a tourist who was in an accident died because they took too long to get him a ventilator. I won't speak too much on those details, but these are the things that the U.S. Embassy, who is not politically motivated again, the U.S. is not looking to unseat anybody or ask for resignations. They're looking out for their own citizens. And the fact of the matter is that if you are in an accident or should require emergency services in Jamaica, Jamaicans or tourists, we do not have a proper emergency medical team. When you go to a hospital, the hospital does not have a CT scan in most instances. The CT scan at KPH has been down for a week now.
Amen.
So we can give you real-time updates as to what is happening in the health sector. We can tell you that the numbers of ventilators that they have been putting out, they're all incorrect. When we saw that 118, we knew it was incorrect. When we saw the 122, we knew it was incorrect. Then the CMO came and said, just a couple of days after it was 118, that it was actually 90, and last week it may have been over 100. When they speak about 43 ICU spaces, we know that Cornwall Regional has only 2 ICU spaces. KPH only has 5. And those are the 2 type A hospitals in the public health sector.
Amen.
There are not 43 ICU spaces in Jamaica. We don't have the staff to run 43 ICU spaces. We don't have the equipment to run 43 at a time. So the data that is coming out, you have to listen carefully, because what they said, they clarified after, was that these are potential spaces. But you would leave thinking that if 43 people need to be ventilated and cared for, because of a critical illness, that we have the capacity to do that. No, we don't.
No, we don't.
Dr. Dawes, right? I want to read something to you, Dr. Dawes, that I had previously read to Mr. Tufton. And before I even finish, Mr. Tufton debunked that, right? Because he had reported something as it relates to, out of all the persons who filter through the healthcare system, right, is only 1% of person complaining. So I'm just going to read something to you, and I want to ask.
Wait, 1% of people complain?
Yes.
That's what he said. That's what he
Complain
said.
to who? What mechanism of complaint? things.
Well, he was quoting from a so-called
He wasn't quoting from anything. He said that is what him think it off the top of him head is about 1%. He didn't quote anything. And when you asked him for proof of the data, he said he will go and have to find, he will have to go and find it.
So, Dr. Dawes, I just want to read something to you. And I just want to ask your opinion on what I'm going to read. Let me begin. A public health crisis, Jamaica's iconic reggae and beaches backdrop. A public health crisis, the legacy of the colonial slave-based economy birth. Traumatic post-emancipation public healthcare system present in Jamaica today. Healthcare is a dimension of poverty on the island. The Multidisciplinary Poverty Index, MPI, of 2022 estimated that 78,000 Jamaicans live in multidimensional poverty in 2020. The index splits poverty into 3 dimensions: health, education, and standard of living, and scales the intensity of deprivations for each. Compared to selected other Caribbean and Latin American countries at that time, healthcare deprivation, let me read that over, healthcare deprivation was greatest in Jamaica at 52.2%, right? The next highest was Trinidad and Tobago at 45.5%. Let me ask you, do you in any way, shape, or form somewhat agree with this that I just read?
So, to go back from the days of slavery where the plantation owners used to hire doctors who would visit the different plantations and look after the slaves. After emancipation, they had no need to look after anybody anymore. So they basically, those doctors went back to England, and we grew up with herbal medicine, or the nurses such as Cuba Cornwallis and Mary C. Cole used to use a lot of traditional African medicine and so on. And that is what we're used to, which is why Jamaican people love bush tea so much.
That's right.
Our strides in healthcare never really took effect until after the 1938 riots. The Moyne Commission looked at Jamaica along with other islands that were affected by these riots and said that similar thing is the economy is still plantation based, and there's very little no education set up for blacks for opportunities, and there's very little healthcare. That is when we start to have clinics, vaccination drives, and so on. So even though we had a very good primary care system, at one point we were ranked in the top 10 in the world because we had built out a primary healthcare system, got rid of yaws, got rid of malaria, yellow fever, all of those. So we're a tropical country without tropical diseases, without infectious diseases. But then we never transitioned when we started to have an aging, older, fatter population with chronic diseases becoming more apparent, the diabetes, the high blood pressure, and the cancers. We never retooled our healthcare system. And because of that, we are faced with the burden of these chronic diseases, and it is causing a problem because with free healthcare getting whatever little money that was in the budget that the hospitals were collecting, that is where maintenance started to go down. That is where a lot of the infrastructure started to go down, and we are reaching a tipping point right now in terms of a crisis, because all of the money that has been spent in healthcare over the last few years has pretty much flowed through into the pockets of private interest without actually staying and developing the healthcare sector. But when and panel and guests, I have to go. I'm being summoned.
Oh boy, I was just gonna ask you one question. Just quickly, Dr. Dawes.
Sorry.
Remember 2019, the dengue outbreak. Dr. Tufton came on the platform and said that he didn't do anything wrong.
No,
I remember you spoke.
I have to go.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Take care. I love this show. Well, let's get back something from Dr. Tufton.
Yeah, just turn it off.
The system down. The system down. So much
kick out the Wi-Fi.
Well, system down, right?
Okay. But I was going to ask Dr. Dawes, because I remember in 2019 during the dengue epidemic, most of you know that I did a whole heap during that based on what happened with my kids. Dr. Dawes at the time, he was not involved in politics. Actually, backed me up on a few other things. He wasn't even involved in politics at that time. But when the naysayers coming from the government tried to attack me, Dr. Dawes had to say, no, she's speaking the truth. So that's why I wanted to actually ask him about it. But something else, Wayne, I didn't get to fully ventilate the issue of the CT scans and the public-private partnership that Dr. Tufton is speaking of, and how he's touting it as successful, as the best way to go. It is not. And I'm going to tell you why. In a children's hospital, when you have a child with a potential traumatic brain injury that you will have to put in an ambulance to take to a private institution for something as simple as a CT scan, time is brain. And Nurse Ann can verify this. Time is brain. You won't have time. You're working within a 90-minute window. And sometimes to take a child to a private institution for an emergency scan is not ideal. I found it so odd that Dr. Tufton continuously compared Jamaica to first world countries like the US, Canada, UK. In the US, in Canada and the UK, the simplest of medical centers have CT scan, ultrasound. Some of them even have MRI machines. So I'm trying to figure out what he's talking about when you have type A institutions without these things. And then he's touting this public-private partnership, which, as far as I'm concerned, is putting the lives of ordinary Jamaican people at risk to move them, especially when they're unstable. How do you move an unstable patient to get a CT, a brain CT? How do you move an unstable patient who is having, remember now, the counselor from Morant Bay Division, remember he died recently? Trying to get an ambulance to move him from Princess Margaret Hospital to KPH for some tests. Remember that he passed, right? Waiting for ambulance.
Do the test, come back in his private vehicle.
In his private vehicle. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
So if you don't equip them, I don't understand Dr. Tufton at all. And as I said to you before, and I said it to him.
Knowledge of the ministry.
He's a PR guru. But healthcare, and I do not agree with Dr. Tufton that because you manage industry and you manage agriculture. Healthcare is not industry. Healthcare is not agriculture. Healthcare has its own unique nuances where only a professional can understand certain concepts. And if you don't have basic healthcare knowledge to understand what your technocrats speak of, you can't give your input on important decisions.
Ratty, what you say when you hear since from Dr. Tufton? Lying down right now. Big up yourself. Because you're brave, You're brave, bad.
No, you have to give credit for coming back,
I'm brave, him come in.
Look, the man is a PhD in administration, and in all time depth. Way out. This is not his thing, and as much as you seem try and give the impression that everything is fine and he would serve and he supports the prime minister, the fact of the matter is that when you look at the evidence, it doesn't suggest that. It suggests that he is not only an aspirant, but he's been supported to lead the JLP and by extension the government. And it's clear. I have my sources who are, they've told me that the PSOJ's money is behind Dr. Tufton because I'm tired of the Prime Minister. And when he come out and make that statement that it clearly was one of them Freudian slip. It was a moment where him actually has
Exactly.
in mind,
Exactly.
Yes, him just come out and say, yeah, I'm aspiring for higher office because the only two offices I know are higher than female office is the Governor General and the Prime Minister. And I don't think he might refer to the Governor General because I'm gonna try to get rid of him right now. But it's funny. Here's a question there are a bunch of questions I wanted to ask him, but here's one that I wanted to ask him, and I hope he's listening. Dr. Tufton, the first thing is that I didn't want to make an issue out of it, but the Prime Minister went through great pains and paid millions and millions. How much you pay again, Maria, for the job description? How much you pay for the job?
Almost
$1.5 billion.
Million, almost $1 billion.
Yeah,
Almost
a job
$1 billion.
description, right?
Yes.
And you could have picked up this job description here for free, right? When you read through it, it says no work the paper right there. But for an important ministry like that, and him know him a come on a program like this, you think at the very least he would have prepared himself and say, let me look for my job description so that any questions him can give me can tie to my job description and say, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And the man, can you ask him, are you familiar with your job description? And him say, boy, no, I'm sure that. Him say, no, I'm not really want. Somebody will say, it's all right. I don't want to make it a fair fight. I don't want to deal with that. But here's what happened. On March 20th of this year, him make a speech and him say, him a want all of the bloggers them to keep him name out of their fabrications or they'll suffer legal implications, meaning I'll sue people. Then you have the Prime Minister will come on and say, well, he want to pass some legislation for lock up people who make mischief and other. So the question I'm going to ask him is that, would you support a bill for lock up politicians who come out with fake news? Since you want to lock up people, who are expressing First Amendment right, then how about if we turn it around and say, we want to lock them up when they give us fake news or telling that or lie to us and tell us things are not true? And him wouldn't answer. But here's the thing about it. The critical thing about this experience at tonight is that people get a chance to actually see him and hear him and watch him. And you know what? People very, very, we have some eagle-eyed people on the program, because I won't name her, but very dear friend of the program. She said, how come him wrist broke, right? But she screenshot him, I use him right hand. She screenshot him with him left hand, and she screenshot him with both hands. And she said,
but he said his foot was also broken, and I don't understand. I let it slide. I didn't want to tackle him about this, but you don't immobilize fractured limbs with an orthotic in that nature. Anyway, make we leave that alone. Here's
the thing we really want on a serious note. Here's a question I want to ask him. I mean, just don't ask him and leave him alone for just swaying on the breeze. Dr. Michael Abrams, about 5 days ago, wrote an article about the issues with the health sector. And here are some of the things we itemize. Itemized that the Auditor General said that there were contracts issued without the procurement procedures. In 2017 to 2018, $7 million worth of computers missing. $18 million spent without the permanent secretary's approval. 2018 to 2019, $35 million spent on consulting services for 9 months with no competitive process or advertisement. 2022, the Auditor General found anomalies in the allocation of COVID-19 funds. There was a failure to act in compliance with the Financial Administration and Audit Act. $337 million paid to 7 hotels and guest houses for quarantine accommodations, and only one followed the contract. Only one of them that a contract followed the procurement procedures. $124 million paid to 8 suppliers for infrastructural works without contracts. $2 million spent on television sets and tablets where there was no relevance to COVID-19 response initiatives. In 2020, Market Me, $80 million spent on a company owned by somebody who's affiliated with him, and that was the only company considered for that contract. 2021 COVID-19 pandemic, or the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Don't read it. Don't read it. I read it and they took down my life. Don't read it. Don't read it. They removed my life for reading that stanza. Don't read it.
Yeah, then them have the July 2022, them say 9 newborn babies dead from infections. Then they have the Cornwall Regional, 2 billion originally, gone to 21 billion. Then you have the ventilators, and you have the high maternal mortality rate. These are all things in the Gleaner that this Dr. Michael Abrams put. So I wanted to ask him, look, explain all of this to us. Are these fake? Is this fake news, or is there any truth to any of this?
And this is an actual medical doctor.
No, remember,
Actual medical doctor.
he does write it, but remember it released by the same lady outside.
In what?
The lady, the Auditor General, she released it.
Yes.
So he does write about it. It released.
Right.
Yes.
So these are the things we want to ask him, but you know.
Him find him way out, man. Him find him way. He's a very, listen, you have to give credit where credit is due. Dr. Tufton.
Let me tell you with Dr. Tufton and him a watch. Him now coming like the Prime Minister, just lie. When him do, him spin things.
He's a spin doctor. Yes.
When him do, him like me show him the level 3, and him start tell about tourists. And about the tourists me I talk about. If me
That's right.
It talk about the hospital and the condition of the hospital and them people them you have to be careful.
Real spin doctor.
So no read so when him do him spin it around. So me understand him. Because remember you have him deflect. So we know the style and the deflect as a as a minister of health. You understand? Him good conduct. So we know it.
Wayne, let me ask you this.
Yes.
I asked him about what happened in 2015, right? Because he made a comment about all the things that went into 2015, like the lack of trained staff, the lack of nurses. Everything he said about 2015, what happened to the PNP and Fenton Ferguson, is the same thing happened to them in 2022. So I was saying to him, what lessons could you learn from 2015 to avoid, and did you avoid it? They never avoided it. They fell in the same trap, and a whole bunch of babies died. If you look at the long list of headlines that I sent you from 2022 and stuff, that is exactly what happened. So if he says that the lessons were learned, that he didn't make any mistakes, what I was trying to point out to him, that was a big mistake on your part, because you are the overall health minister and you fail to see what happened in the past, and you did not take action to avoid it 7 years later, right? He never did. So the bottom line is they keep repeating the same mistakes. And he can't blame it and say, oh, I didn't have enough staff. No.
As me say again,
right.
Aromatic, I make it come in, but as me say again, the health minister say them write 300 prescription, but me I tell you say the prescription where them write, people have to full it outside. And it have nothing to do with when you're in a hospital. Because me have enough thing come to me, my phone them full. I have the evidence. So when the people them get them thing, if you get a hand block, you have to go outside go buy the pin. Remember when printers get shot? You have to buy the pin them and everything. When you go to public or outside, other doctor, you leave from my studio, by the way. And then we can tell him more and more things were happening.
That's the same thing when, if he's using predictive technology, which he claim they assess, you shouldn't be running out of supplies, medical supplies. You shouldn't be running out of pharmaceuticals. You should have the commonly used drugs, commonly used items for operations and for everything else on hand.
Can I interject? Because I asked Dr. Tufton about the hospitals running out of oxygen during the pandemic, and he said that it was absolutely untrue. I have found the article, right? Savlamar super nurse dies of whatever, right? But that is what the case is related to.
Yes.
The doctor insists, this is August 31, 2021.
True.
We had no oxygen. Doctor insists supply was late for nurse who died. A senior medical doctor at the Cornwall Regional has been left infuriated after the Western Regional Health Authority head rejected reports that a C-positive SAV nurse died because of lack of oxygen. Right? According to the doctor, the pronouncement by authority chairman Saint Andrade Sinclair was simply not true. We had no oxygen, the doctor told the Gleaner on Tuesday. She became ill last week, admitted to Savlamar Hospital, and while there, her oxygen saturation was low. He said the C-stricken nurse was eventually transferred to Cornwall Regional Hospital, and medical staff were bagging her, meaning manually supplying oxygen to the lungs. The doctor said Cunningham only received medical grade oxygen after another patient died, and she was able to get the remaining gas. So when Dr. Tufton says that I was basically spreading fake news, is this fake news?
No, but listen.
That's what I want to know.
Listen, Mango.
The same news is in the Gleaner. I just
no,
posted
no, that. I watch the news. I watch her husband a ball. Her husband a cry down the place.
Okay. But Dr. Tufton was on here a while ago claiming that this is a lie. It is propaganda. And we're spreading fake news.
I remember tell the Dr. Tufton again, him spin the thing, because if him say the gas came in and it clear, but it reached late, the lady died.
Thank you.
I mean, it don't make no sense. You can't say it's fake, it's not fake.
And she was not the only one. There was a pregnant woman, 5 months pregnant woman at St. Anne's Bay Hospital who also died because of lack of oxygen. There was also a nurse at Kingston Public Hospital who sent out voice notes saying that she was going to die because they were rationing oxygen and she couldn't get none. This is the voice note. These are the voice notes from a woman who died. Yes. So I don't understand how Dr. Tufton sat on here and rubbished all these claims as fake news. It would have us arrested. So we spread. You see what the Prime Minister said? It's so them would arrest we. So we're spreading fake news. Because they claim to be the arbiter of the truth. That's why I ask him if he's the arbiter of the truth. That's why I ask him.
Yes. Remember all these cases. May have them. Me show them. Show them. Yes.
Okay. Show them. Me sorry. I am only sorry say me never get little more time for grill him because me did want grill him some more because him never ventilate the CT scan machine issue.
No, that I make I say something because I see my way in the wing this and then say one thing.
All right. Herb, you just go as far as 2022, right? When it takes the minister 2 months to come out and tell the people of Jamaica that an infection was taking place in the Victoria Jubilee Hospital.
Right.
But before that, there's a Sunday article from October 11, 2018. The Victoria Jubilee Hospital, baby bodies were found among dead dogs.
Yes, among dogs. Dead baby bodies were found
dead
among
babies.
dogs.
Dogs behind the Victoria Jubilee Hospital.
Yes. Yes.
So, is this thing fake news?
No, it's there.
And the next thing again is that tonight, bro, you know, we are here and we sit and we listen to Christopher Tufton. And as I say, the way this man is talking, if you don't know nothing about Jamaica, and you hear this man sit here tonight and he spinned it, you're gonna think that Jamaica is one of the most beautiful places in the world.
You're gonna believe that.
He does not take blame. He does not take blame for nothing. And if you are not going to take blame, how are we going to solve the problem going forward?
That is why I asked him who is to be held accountable. I know him don't answer that question, you know. I asked him specifically who is to be held accountable, because according to him, it's not the technocrats, you know, and it's not him. So who must be held accountable?
Maria, who failed up? Well, we know say him do me a ratty that already. Ratty. Remember Dr. Tufton do with that, you know, him blame the toilet, him blame the
blame everything.
Yeah, blame the regional, blame the hospital administrator, the regional hospital administrator, patients, visitors,
the patients.
And then when you ask him said him can't be everywhere all the time. But you know what? Another question should ask him, you know, is that listen, the Prime Minister made a statement that you get what you pay for. That's why that was his argument for the increase. So now everybody have the increase. The country supposed to run like a well-oiled machine. But no, we see the country, especially the health sector, it have perform even worse than before. So maybe him should give back the money when him get. Because that's why I'm asking the question about him, about this, you know, about him saying no, I'm not familiar with it. So I'm sorry, I'm not go down the road with him, you know. But yeah, him get an increase and somehow, because here's the thing. One of the things where him can spin, actually, as far as me concerned, him spin out of control because people see him for him where him is.
So Ratty, well, I know something where you say the man turn a gig tonight. Ratty does, but that's what I'm saying, Ratty. For you say a gig, you know, you put the card and you spin a gig.
I know the gig, yeah.
Spin.
And you know what I blame, Ratty? I blame Maria, you know. Because
I her artist. You know play him throne.
Me play him the first thing. Dr. Tufton said, "Oh, you come back and you beat me up and I say, yeah, soft me up." So yeah,
but wait, no, thou shalt not play my artist tune without my permission. No, but seriously, Ratty spoke earlier about his aspirations. But y'all missing the point. They're doing a constitutional reform right now. So he'll be the first president of Jamaica. Y'all forget.
Yeah. The man don't want to be no president. He wants to be prime minister.
No, president. Stop it. Executive president. Another serious issue, though, you know, was about the Western Regional Children's Hospital / Cornell Regional Hospital and who is the project manager and whether or not we can get a request for proposal, a request for information about, the contract procedures, the bidding procedure. How did that work? He says all Chinese. Then the next question would be, what percentage of the workforce are Jamaicans? You know, is it a 70-30, 50-50, 60-40, whatever, you know, that sort of thing. And he said the UDC is the project manager, but there's a video going around with someone and they said he introduced himself as the project manager. No, the research now has to be done to find out whether or not this person works at UDC. Is this person qualified to be in that position? Because to be in that position, you need a BA, MA, you need to be a structural engineer. You have to be familiar with those things. Structural engineering, civil engineering, architecture, because
or even project management, you have to have some.
Yeah, but listen.
But how is he going to read the document, the building documents, if he's not familiar with this thing? Or is it that he got the job? Yes, my brother.
What's this? Listen to him carefully now. Him said the contract was executed in China, right?
Yeah,
so that's why somebody in the chat said there is a certain person named Chapa Chen Sing or Chapa.
Yes, it's Chap you. Yes, ma'am. He seems to be Chinese these days. Chapa Kung Fu. That's right, Chinese.
Chinese.
But something, Kamala, what it has done now is it is now forcing us to do some research into the UDC.
Amen.
This particular person is certified to be in that job.
Exactly.
And
because
it will
to
now
be
explain why we're having the
exactly.
cost overruns.
Yeah.
Now
The
we have
man
to
named
ask the
Chopper, you
question.
know. The man named
Yeah, but
Chopper,
here's the
you know.
thing. Yeah, but here's the thing, Kamala. If he is not certified as a structural engineer, civil engineer, architect, project
Project
management
manager.
skills for that particular job. It's as a matter of fact, the intricate details that that job requires a person
Amen.
to be skilled with the skill sets for it so that they can manage the money well. Because remember now, every construction site you have, you're going to have issues, things are going to come up. So how was the
Exactly.
budget done? You know, how was the budget done? All of that stuff.
Yes.
What about the contract? Who was responsible for plumbing and
Yes.
electrical work and the environmental problems? Yes, my brother.
The funny
Chop
thing,
Chop suey come from.
Chop suey.
Maria, Miss
the funniest
Maria,
thing.
one thing me know, you have on the right hat. You have on
Yeah.
the white hat.
Yeah, man, and the
Chopper.
jacket, yeah, man, him look
No, he has
like a
he has the
real.
PPEs, you know.
The
He has the
equipment, yeah,
PPEs,
man.
but having the PPEs does not necessarily translate into having the skill set for the job. So
That's
given
right.
the cost overruns that's happening, we now have to look seriously at the UDC because the minister said the UDC is the project manager. Wonderful, because
That's
I know the
right.
UDC is supposed to have trained people, engineers, all of that. We're not going to flank the UDC for that. They're qualified people at the UDC. But this particular person who is busy pointing out this to the opposition leader, is he qualified for that position? And what role does he really play in there? Because I see where he's what? Is he sitting on the board of the Cornwall Regional Hospital? What qualifies him to be on that board?
The
He
man
also
run
has,
Mobi. Him depend every school
yes, he's
board.
he's the chairman of the St. James High School. He also runs the canteen at Cornwall Regional
Mm-hmm.
Hospital.
Blogger turned
So
CEO.
There's another issue
right.
here now. There's an issue here. No, there's an issue.
Somebody just send me
There's
this.
an
You cannot please and read
No,
it.
but blogger turned CEO. But lonesome, there's an issue here now. There's an issue of dual citizenship. Because if the Chinese send chop suey, then I don't understand how him have a contract with the Jamaica. Is he a Jamaican and a Chinese national? We don't know. But I think there's a problem here. Maybe there's a conflict of interest, or maybe there's some regulation that says you must be Jamaican alone for run certain things. We need to check that out. Oh, hold on there.
But also Rattigan, is this payback for the job that he did in 2016 and 2020 because he was called out and bigged up in Parliament and also is that his payment for these positions? So we know you see, this is the thing, the minister opened another can of worms by saying the UDC is responsible. Nothing wrong with the UDC, but given that this person was out there, this is not the first time we're seeing him on a construction site. So now we have to ask the question, is this person certified with the UDC to be there, to be in that position? What is this person's job description?
What's his qualification?
Maria, hold on the door. UDC responsible for what?
It's the Urban Development Corporation.
The operation.
No. Christopher Tufton said is UDC.
The project manager is the UDC. Yes, which is Urban Development Corporation. Yes.
How much money again? Spend on there?
$21 billion.
I'm here, Mr. Christopher, Dr. Tufton said the other day, say, I'm going to spend 3.5 billion and I'm going to spend the next 5 point something.
I guess we are spreading fake news that was in the mainstream media because we are basically sharing what was in the mainstream media. So it looked like they are spreading the fake news and what him like to say, propaganda.
Yeah, but him tell me the can move. Remember we interviewed Dr. Tufton already, and him said 5 billion, and then we interviewed the shadow cabinet minister. That time it was Maurice Sky at the time, Ratty. And him said 10 billion it gone to, and then by the next week we have 14.1, and then we have 21.4 billion, and then him come back the other day now when I think what about it, the opposition party talk about it, and him say 3.5 billion,
so
and
keep on shifting.
5, And say I'm gonna use the next 5 billion for to finish up on them things. Say them actually spend 3.5. Not my word. Not my word.
But something, Wayne. The UDC have qualified people. It's not about the UDC. It's about an individual and whether or not that individual is qualified, has the necessary certification to be involved with a project such as the building out or the refurbishing or the whatever of the Western Regional Children's Hospital or the Cornwall Regional Hospital. That is what we need to know. How is he involved in this project? Because when you have projects being with so much cost over, it's not that cost overruns will not happen on a construction site, but this is way out of proportion. So you have to now ask the questions. Are the people at the helm of this qualified to be in that position? Because if he's a project manager on that site, on that particular site, and he's not qualified, he's not a civil engineer, as I said, not a structural engineer, he's not an architect, then what him do on the site? He serves no purpose. Can he understand the building, what is presented in front of him in terms of the drawings? When they point out that, when the contractor for plumbing points out where the plumbing is going to be for certain things, does he even have a clue? When the contractor for electrical outlets point that out, electrical installation points out anything, we have to understand it. What about when they're digging, when they're excavating and they come upon gas? Because we all know the further down in the earth you go, it releases gas because the earth is full of all kinds of minerals and gases. When that happens, how is it treated? Because now you have to call in an environmental person. How is it disposed of? How was it carted away? How was it disposed of? All those things. So when we see these people on these sites, we have to ask these questions, not questions about the UDC. The UDC by itself have the people to do the job.
But the first about
this particular individual is the concern. Is he qualified to be on the site? Yes, my brother.
Make we get down to this because the first pay about the UDC and I know a joke about it. But so sometime I run up there and I forgot to talk. Mistake. When I say, Mr. Redo Ratty and Herb and Camilla, Arrow and Daisy say, the minister phone it gone down because him line gone down because him that finish answer with, but him line.
Check out the Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi breakdown.
Let me tell you something, Lonesome. Let me tell you something, right? It's abundantly clear to me that you cannot trust anything. And I mean, it took me a while to get to this point, but I've seen enough evidence now, that convincing evidence that you can't really trust this government when they tell you something. Or when you see it yourself, you can't believe your own lying eyes. And I'll give you a quick example. I asked them some questions about the money where them spent on the Vibes Cartel case, right? And I asked them 4 questions. Them come back and them answer 1 question. And them spend 33 million Jamaican dollars in England at the Privy Council, right? Now, the taxpayers, we pay for somebody called the DPP, or we pay for something called the ODPP, the Office of the DPP. That's one of their responsibilities now, for represent the Crown or the government of Jamaica at the Privy Council. Yet, them subcontract out the work and pay $33 million. And we found out yesterday that apparently that's not the total, right? Because there was other motions filed. But here's the worst part.
Yeah.
But here's the worst part.
$1 million different from that,
Yeah, but here's the worst part.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Them letter to me. Them say, I'll read it. Them say, it is to be noted that representation was made by United Kingdom Council, British lawyers. And as such, no Jamaican attorneys traveled. Therefore, no records exist for travel and per diem.
So we never see Paula.
Don't believe your lying eyes. Do not believe your lying eyes.
Don't Paula phone didn't ring in the court and she bent down.
Kamala. No, we did not see Paula. We saw Shrek 5. Cut it out.
Boy.
Mistake. Let me hear what I say, no man.
Well, here what happened. I mean, you know, regarding to the entire conversation tonight, I mean, the lowest point of the conversation is the situation where Mr. Tufton was stating that, you understand, his move, the government move towards going to the Philippines, right, to bring in nurses and, you know, pay them a package over our own nurses. Then I mean, why just overlook our nurses' investment, right? And to go to the Philippines, it doesn't really make no sense under no circumstances. So that is, you know, that is just a kick in the belly.
Here's what was mistake. We didn't treat the nurses properly, as Anne-Marie said. They never treat the nurses properly because, like she said, invest in your people and they won't leave. Because believe me, Jamaica, geographically, topographically, and otherwise, culturally, is a much better place than anywhere else in the world.
All right, because watch this.
Go ahead.
Watch this, Ratty, right? For persons who are had left the country, like myself, my wife, right? It is not like if we did get an option, right, and said we can resort to livable wage, that would choose to come and live here. Remember, you know, years so we are actually in the freezing box, right? Look on Jamaica, beautiful. Why would we want to make the decision to come here so come live? Upward mobility we are seeking. All of those persons who are migrating, majority of those persons are seeking upward mobility. So then it is a Jamaican problem. Yeah, number one, you know, he said it, that we have some of the best nurse in the world. That's why America and Canada being recruited.
That's why we're so highly sought after.
But you know, the whole reasoning when put forward and the whole course of action of them take, we will call it ass backwards, because you make them leave. And here's what he did right after them left, and the wave, you know, when the wave of them left, and then people start raise keen about it.
Come back for them.
Him take a trip, come Atlanta, I think Connecticut and down in Florida, Miami. And you know what him come for? Him come for recruit the people who left to come back to Jamaica. Now that make any sense?
Can't make no sense. Ratty. All right.
But why would they even want to come back to Jamaica if I'm not paying them?
Exactly. But let me say this. When here in Canada, we have which Lonesome can tell you, because Lonesome they are Canada. Right? We experience more than 6 months of snow. This is not joking. You know. We experience more than 6 months of snow. Right? And so then, who want to leave the tropics and come here, so you understand, in a 6 months of snow? Right? It has to be that, of course, you have to seek upward mobility. Right? And so then, if look how unfair it is that the government look at themselves and take 200, 300% raise. And look how they are treating the teachers and nurses and other technocrats. It's not only nurses alone leaving. Health Minister says nurses who migrated are being asked to return to Jamaica.
Same thing. In my recruit.
Health Minister says nurses who migrated are being asked to return to Jamaica. Okay. Are they going to pay, right, the package, right, that nurses are getting here? They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. So then why it makes sense?
And they might tell them to return to the part of the shortage, and they might go on a package. But instead of them leave, just give them the package.
It's just crazy.
Come back and ask them to return, or you give them a package and them things don't make no sense.
But can I say something?
Not our word in our thing, we say it, you know. It's there. Yeah. Not my word. Yes.
He's saying that there's a shortage. Yes, there's a shortage worldwide. But when you look on the situation at home where it says that we don't really have the nurses and whatever, students are leaving school every year. make it attractive that they will go into the nursing program. When I left school, it was attractive because I did not pay for my education. I got a stipend, I got my uniform, I got books. I was bonded. I worked my bond and I worked beyond, right? And you had a lot of young people who left school and went into nursing because it was an attractive package. Why can't he do that now? Because now you're going to further lower the nurses and the teachers' morale, let's say the public sector workers' morale, by bringing in all these people from foreign countries, and then you give them a better package, better incentive than what you're giving your people at home, right? And then you are there working, and then you see these people, and they're going to come with their families. So the Jamaican government is going to have to make it worthwhile for them to go. So why not invest it back in your people?
It doesn't make any sense with what Mr. Tufton said.
Oh, cannot.
Here, man. 1 week with them Filipinos, 1 week in a KPH, and them a go back home. 1 week. Them a go back home. Watch. Them a drop the contract there. In fact, you know where
Amen.
nurses,
I agree.
Nurses make the most money. Nurses make the most money in the Middle East. I mean, I tell you, they want them to come to Jamaica.
That's where all the Americans going to. That's exactly.
The
Middle East.
Let me ask to you. You carry a nurse with a family. Get house fare. You have to pay for it. Remember, you are going for them. You're responsible for them. You have to put them up. Because them not just come and for them one money. You have to give them the incentive. You have to give them houses. You have to give them travel allowances. Everything. So why never just deal with the nurse? Them good and done.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was asking him. Why not take that money and give it to the Jamaican nurses?
It not gonna work. You have to give them
relocate.
You have to give them papers. You have to give them everything for just to work. It's more expensive.
You know what happened? You have some serious problems with imported nurses because think about it. You have Jamaican nurses now, right? Who barely make a livable wage, and them work alongside, them work right side of people who just come and get house and this and that.
They're going to have to
imagine what happened.
They're going to have
imagine what happened.
More will leave. More will leave. More will leave.
Because although they're nurses, they still have to learn our system, and they're the ones who are going to have to teach them.
It don't make no sense. No sense whatsoever.
Because they're going to need orientation, and it's going to be a different culture and all of that. So they're going to need to be sensitized into the system, and it's our nurses who are going to have to do it.
Amen.
But even with you, there's something again where Dr. Tufton, let me correct you with something. So if you buy a CT scan and me talk to Dr. Daz and remember them in the private and them in the public, and you know, you get a CT scan for like 120,000. Government to government to get it cheaper than that. So we put it around 20 million, you know, can we get it like 120,000 US? We just put like 20 million when you have a wave, you have to put the wave and everything, 20 million. Big less, you know, but put that 20 million for one. You have 20 at hospital. It will be better you train them people, you have art, you have other things. Well, over deal with the CT scan. Just get some people who train them.
You know, that is another lie, Wayne, because there was a proper biomedical program. Remember now, in my profession, I deal with machines. We use a lot of machines. There was a program with hospital biomedical technicians who fixed and serviced machines. An entire unit has been closed down in the ministry with these guys who actually move and fix machines in the public health sector. Machines that were broken down. So I found that so laughable when Dr. Tufton said that, because I know for a fact that because I had somebody not living far from me who was one of the biomedical technicians too, who was trained to repair a lot of those machines. And sometimes they might not know how to repair a certain model. But what these companies who make these machines did, well, they still do, is to provide technical training. So basically they can either train these technicians virtually, or one of their staff members come to Jamaica and train a bunch of technicians on the machine. It's not rocket science. There doesn't need to be any any what him call it? Any system where you lease the machines.
No,
That don't make no sense. How can you be leasing machines?
That is more money.
More money.
Exactly. Purchase the machines outright.
Business administration, as a doctorate in business administration, and he has no management skills, because if he did, Cornell Regional would not have been overrun and all these other projects as they have, because he has no management skills as far as I'm concerned.
His skills are in PR, not management. His skills are in public relations, not management. And this is why I'm saying to him, he's comparing healthcare with things like agriculture and investment and industry, like it's the same thing. It's not the same thing. You understand?
But Kamala,
Yes,
Kamala,
go ahead.
You realize that all of what you're saying goes back to they spend the most money with the least results?
Exactly. That's exactly it. The most money spent on the least results. And I mean, I found it laughable that Dr. Tufton was talking about empathy. Because on my last live that I did, I said that, this man must be a sociopath, because he has not demonstrated his ability to empathize with anybody in the health that is suffering under this current health sector. None. I found it absolutely laughable that he was talking about shedding tears. Somebody must be showing me live where I say, boy, I must be a sociopath. And the thing about it is this. Healthcare is not for everybody. Some people are not cut out for healthcare. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's just not. It's like some people not good at math. I suck at math. You'd never find me becoming like an accountant or an actuary or anything to do like
Hey,
that.
Kamala, stop. Stick up in there, Kamala. Before you talk, say you suck at math. And I remember, say you have a mayor who says 2 times 9 equals 13.
Well, I'm not that bad.
Watch your math, because he can get $50 out of $10.
My arithmetic not so bad. My arithmetic not so bad.
And that's why people must know their limitations when you're going to be going into certain things. And that's what that we go off, especially in emergency room, because you're dealing with somebody's life. So if we have an emergency situation where we're doing CPR and somebody's not very competent with one of the equipment or whatever,
you can't put them to use
their limitations and say,
Amen.
No, I prefer to do this because I am not so competent with that. Because at the end of the day, it's somebody's life that's in your hands. So same thing with the sectors, the different sectors that we have at home. You're dealing with people. So they must know their limitations. Do not go in a ministry that you know nothing about.
And you are so right. You are so right.
Right? And the people are feeling the consequences now, because as Mr. Gratigan always says, that what trying to put a round thing in a square hole. Peg in a round
hole. That's right.
That's what they keep doing, putting square pegs in round holes. And at the end of the day, it's the people that suffer.
But you bring a vital
the sad reality tonight, the sad reality, what we all have to face, is Christopher Tufton sit here tonight and him tell you that he has no problem of fixing the local healthcare system. The local nurse, he never tell us him go do nothing for them. What did he say? He says he's going to Philippines to bring Philippine nurse to Jamaica.
Crazy.
So the sad reality what we have to face is that they are not going to do anything about our local nurses in Jamaica, because if they were, he wouldn't sit there tonight and tell we say they are looking towards Philippines. So that is the sad reality what we all have to face.
I second that, Aromatic. Look, folks, this man came tonight to prove that he could withstand any onslaught from us.
No, did he withstand it though? Did he withstand it himself?
Well, in his own way,
he seems to have run.
Did he kick out
and kick out the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, he kick out the Wi-Fi. Yeah, but the bottom line is, he's making it plain that he's doing his job, what he thinks he should be doing, and that this is not the Prime Minister talking. It's Christopher Tufton talking. So don't hold it against him, and don't think that he and the Prime Minister are on the same page. I think he wants to put more distance between himself and the Prime Minister. But, you know, instead of doing that, he just showing that the man responsible for the lives of 3 million people have no responsibility at all. Him don't, look, him say, what him say? Him say the residents of the country don't even stay fit, don't even try to become fit.
But he's
Yet
blaming
still
people
him
for them own
spend,
health.
and him girlfriend spend over $80 million on Market Me, right? And what them get? Them get a XXX rated video for $80 million. That's all they got, right? So where are we going with this? The bottom line is he and the Prime Minister, they're gonna do as they damn well please. They couldn't care less. They don't care. They I mean, nobody can touch them. That's how they see things.
You know what I found
the US
odd?
government put their foot down with one of the laws that we often quote, nothing is going to happen.
That's right.
And he's going to come and give the same talk if we're on the air with him a year from now, if they happen to win. But
I found it very odd how this man claims the first question he asks me when I come on is if I'm in Jamaica. How him know whether I'm in Jamaica or not?
Yeah.
I found that very odd.
The man is saying what
the Prime Minister said we'll track you, right, Mango.
So I guess I'm being tracked.
You're being tracked.
You're being tracked.
I see.
Folks, I have got to go. I've got to drive 70 miles to home. Right?
Yeah, it was a very good show.
Safe travel, Sir Herb. Safe travel.
Yeah, be careful on the road, you know.
Yeah,
be careful.
Yeah.
All right, gentle people.
Week, Sir Herb.
All right.
Excellent show.
Just try to know
Yeah, man, blessed show. We shall speak. All my brothers and sisters, we shall speak.
Yes. All right,
man. Take care. Take care of yourself. All right.
Man in the wilderness. Be good. Have a good night.
Yeah, me there about Ratty, man. You know, Ratty, you have to eat a bit now, man. See what I said now?
Ratty tell him, man, if left your tight and go do what I do, man.
Yeah, mistake. Salute.
Yes. Blessing.
Take care.
Ratty, anytime the man want to go eat him Bickley Macaulay night, tell him to go and go eat him Bickley.
You know it. Him eat every Sunday night, man. Every Sunday night, him do it. When him want to cook, he say, "Why I'm not a little hungry like
that?" Go
eat you.
Hungry too, man. So I'm going to eat
Take care.
All right.
Blessed week.
All right. We can't eat the big karate. We know some big people. We know some night and big yet. We don't even big yet. Yeah, man. See you later, brother.
All right, Virgin. Cool.